Chapter 341, Bottleneck in the Darkness. A bead of water wrapped around Luo Feng as it raced through the Hunyuan space. He pressed his face to the watery shell and watched the endless turbulence of the Hunyuan power slide past. "Every time I look into Hunyuan space, I'm amazed," he murmured. In the distance, a massive source world hung like a dot, and in the next instant the droplet had swept him past it. "We, the lives trapped inside the cage, need the protection of a world," Luo Feng thought. "Either a source world or one of the worlds fashioned by Senior Yuan and the others. Venture outside and we die in moments." The Hunyuan space was boundless and riven with raw Hunyuan power, brutal, corrosive forces, not the refined gentleness of Hunyuan crystal. They constantly eroded life. Only by breaking free from the cage could a being survive there long term. From his home on the Origin continent, watched through the eye of creation and destruction, Luo Feng had already glimpsed only a sliver of the Hunyuan space, less than 1/10,000th of the whole. With the eye's insight, the Hunyuan space revealed countless vibrant strata, layers of magnificent space where energy passing between them generated new energies and even bred strange creatures. Without that eye, it would look to him like a dark void with the occasional colossal entity drifting through it. A swirling mist coalesced nearby, about 1/10 the size of the Origin continent, and from its vortex a vague head emerged, peering in his direction. Judging from its scale, Luo Feng guessed it was a high-level Origin life. During transmissions, one could sometimes meet high-level Origin lives. Encountering a world-level Hunyuan being, however, was almost unheard of. For those still inside the cage, size remained the simplest gauge of strength. Entities nearly the size of a source world tended to be Hunyuan ancestors, the most fearsome of beings. Those larger than the Origin continent were likely world-level. Those the size of a small part of the Origin continent were usually high-level Origin lives. Though of course that system could be misleading if a mighty being concealed its true bulk. "We're arriving at the dark sacred world," a cultivator beside him said as the little water droplet sped toward a special world that looked entirely black, faintly washed with dark red. It was much smaller than a source world. With a soft whoosh, the droplet slipped inside the dark sacred world and carried him down to the summit of a solemn holy mountain. At its peak lay a dark lake. The droplet fanned open, and Luo Feng stepped out onto the shore. He felt the world's suppressive pressure immediately. It was on par with the Nine Rivers sacred world. His God-Emperor late-stage life-death Tao still held steady here without alteration. "My path of creation and destruction is becoming increasingly usable across different worlds," he reflected. Nearby, a cultivator smiled and said, "Friend, a flying ship will arrive soon to take us to one of the Dark Sacred World's 5 cities." The Dark Sacred World was dangerous. Most people used official flying ships, and very few dared to travel alone. Luo Feng glanced around. More than 50 cultivators had gathered, varied auras, but all at least God-Emperor late-stage Tao comprehension. "Thanks," he replied and stepped into the air. In an instant, he blurred and vanished over the horizon. The gathered group watched him go, incredulous. "He can do short-range spatial shuttling in the Dark Sacred World?" someone breathed. Such a feat was thought possible only for peak-level existences. The crowd exchanged puzzled looks. Luo Feng's black hair and black clothes were unfamiliar to them. None of the elders' records mentioned him. In the Dark Sacred World, peak-level existences were usually well known within each of the 5 gathering cities, so his anonymity only deepened their curiosity. Luo Feng had already obtained detailed intelligence on the Dark Sacred World from Deputy Palace Master Xingje and the cultivator team. After leaving the Transmission Holy Mountain, he had set course for Chengfeng City, the gathering city closest to the Transmission Holy Mountain, and chosen it as his first residence. But he wasn't in a hurry to settle. His curiosity pulled him to explore. The quantity and quality of low-level Hunyuan life here far surpassed those in the Nine Rivers sacred world, he observed. He had even heard rumors of Hunyuan prisoners, high-level Origin life whose powers had been sealed. Besides those kept in large Hunyuan prisons, a few suppressed Hunyuan prisoners still appeared in the wild. Whenever one surfaced, it would draw teams of cultivators to hunt it down. Even peak-level existences were dangerous when acting alone in this world. Luo Feng walked along the shore. The biomimetic extinction eye between his brows scanned farther than ever. After consuming the 100 tribulation heart marrow, his thought processing speed had soared 3,000-fold, and a continuous state of inspiration had lasted for more than half an epoch. The gains in cultivation were like 1 or 2,000 epochs of normal progress. During his recent secluded training, his path of life and path of destruction had advanced to the semi-primordial origin level. The path of creation and destruction, however, had been stubbornly difficult. It started well as he extended from God Emperor late-stage life-death Tao, drawing sustenance from life and destruction, but then ground to a halt at a bottleneck. Stuck, unable to push beyond it. Luo Feng shifted focus to perfecting the undying blood sea body, refining the biomimetic extinction eye, and polishing other secret techniques. He knew the frustration of being blocked at some comprehension point that prevented further progress. Even so, compared to the Yulan city battle, his path of creation and destruction now had deeper accumulations. Aided by semi-primordial level life and destruction paths, his overall realm had improved and the potency of his secret techniques had risen. His eye spotted movement ahead, a team of Vast Hoof origin life. In the Nine Rivers sacred world, Vast Hoof usually acted alone. Seeing 3 to 5 together was rare, but here a full 82 of them were moving as one, an unusually large pack. Luo Feng counted 7 at God Emperor perfect level and 75 at God Emperor late stage. If such a team met an enemy as strong as Palace Master Wei Yang, they would be crushed instantly. Curious, Luo Feng approached. With a single step through a spatial rift, he arrived within striking distance. The Vast Hoof noticed him at once. A lone cultivator, members of the pack snarled. Kill him. As they moved, countless azure lightning bolts condensed in the void, pouring down like a heavenly torrent. Luo Feng stood his ground and let the lightning strike, but the bolts could not graze a hair on his head. They were halted by an invisible barrier. The Vast Hoof, already charging, watched in shock as their lightning did nothing. Fear crept into their hearts and they slowed, preparing to flee. Since we've met, don't leave, Luo Feng said, extending his hand. His palm transformed, a great furry claw sprang forth, cleaving the void and enveloping a vast swath of sky and earth. The space was separated, and the team of Vast Hoof was trapped inside a pocket realm. Luo Feng retracted his hand. In the palm of that fuzzy hand, the 82 Vast Hoof were like toys, utterly incapable of resistance. Their bodies remained intact, but their life cores quietly split. One by one they died. Luo Feng collected their corpses into his storage treasure. Low-level Hunyuan life of that scale posed no threat to him. By his own estimate, in the Yulan city battle, he alone could suppress 4 super-limit-level beings. Now he might hold sway over 10. One man could match a peak-level team, but Luo Feng was clear-headed about limits. His strength was not invincible. To be truly invincible meant surpassing the peak by at least 1 major level, being the equivalent of 20 or 30 peak-level existences at minimum. Only then did one's spiritual will, breaking out of the cage, crush peak-level beings utterly. He walked to the dark lake, sat cross-legged on the shore, and closed his eyes. The bottleneck in his path of creation and destruction pressed against his mind like an iron door. Luo Feng let the world's suppressive pressure wash over him and began to meditate, seeking the next key to break through. My path of creation and destruction is completely stuck. Could the route I've been exploring be a dead end? Luo Feng felt a prickle of doubt. In the God King stage, there had always been a complete great Tao to study. Dead ends didn't exist. Failure to advance only meant insufficient comprehension or cultivation. But the God Emperor stage was an exploration in the dark. It was easy to wander down the wrong road, fall into an absolute dead end, and never progress. Fusion paths were the worst, far more complex than a pure single path, and incredibly easy to stall on. Even with the Gui Fang Lord's understanding, his fusion path had only reached God Emperor, early stage. I have the eye of creation and destruction, and I've observed so many Hunyuan bloodlines. My path should be right, Luo Feng muttered. If it is, then how do I break this next bottleneck? He reflected on the life direction of his creation and destruction fusion. His aim was the ultimate physical body. Bigger meant better. Bigger meant greater energy reserves, greater destructive potential, and boundless vitality. But once the body reached a certain immensity, how could he control it? From his studies, he had estimated that the primal chaos life-death Tao could, in theory, reach an energy reserve equivalent to 1.2 billion times the perfect divine body. After the battle in Yulan City, he had retreated into seclusion and advanced every facet of himself. He was close enough to the primal chaos life-death Tao to make a rough calculation. As one of the three invincible paths, if mastered, it would guarantee absolute dominance. At God Emperor middle stage, my undying blood sea body, at a reserve of 500 times the perfect divine body, was my peak combat form. At its limit, I could control tens of thousands of times the energy reserve, but that didn't increase my true power, he thought. Now my undying blood sea body holds about 3,000 times the perfect divine body in reserve as my peak. At its edge, I can control up to 100,000 times, but any more and the body becomes too massive to manage, and my strength falls. The primal chaos life-death Tao could theoretically reach 1.2 billion times. How could I control that perfectly? Even basic locomotion would be a monumental effort. Luo Feng realized he faced a fundamental flaw: body control. His creation and destruction path was otherwise well-formed: massive physical body, undying vitality, methods to release power. All his goals had been met, except this one. When the body was small, control was natural. His current total reserve didn't exceed about 5,000 times the perfect divine body. He commanded that easily. But 1.2 billion times was another matter. Sacrificing mass to gain control would mean abandoning the path he had set. Then it wouldn't be the God-Emperor perfect level path of creation and destruction. Based on the Hunyuan bloodlines I've studied, controlling such a gigantic body probably requires two things: a fundamental transformation in bodily control, and a mind or will that has transcended the cage. Only by satisfying both might I perfectly handle such a body. He had discussed this with Palace Master Yuan Xiang and Deputy Palace Master Xingzhe's team. They had seen wills that transcended the cage. Typically, that first transcendence only increased the power of mind and will by a little over tenfold. Among the three invincible paths, will transcending cage was the most commonly observed. With such a will, a single thought could suppress people like Palace Master Yuan Xiang, but suppression was not annihilation. A tenfold increase in will might aid bodily control, but it wouldn't produce perfect control. With a massive body, even a 100-fold increase would only let me move more flexibly and perform simple actions, Luo Feng reasoned. Executing the most profound techniques, multitasking, establishing formations, fighting up close, using the biomimetic extinction eye, wielding secret treasures, all that would still be impossible. Multitasking, he concluded, was the essence of perfect body control. A mind strengthened by only a little over 10 times was far from enough. He was still very far from a will that had transcended the cage. Perhaps his path was wrong. Perhaps his path of creation and destruction shouldn't pursue ultimate bulk. Luo Feng forced himself not to give up. Changing the fundamental direction would mean overturning everything and starting anew from the God King ultimate realm. Impossible to do cleanly, always haunted by the old path. Cultivation was unforgiving. One wrong step could skew everything that followed. If I can make this work, though, it will be worth it, he told himself. He reflected calmly, drawing on inspiration from many Hunyuan bloodlines: the Undying Heart, the Palm World, the Star Tower, and the Eye of Creation and Destruction. He noted that even the Star Tower combined life and destruction, but did not truly fuse them. There was no reference for the fusion path. In the early stages, a lack of references was manageable, but it became disastrous later. The bottleneck from God Emperor late stage to God Emperor perfect level was enormous. Beyond that, from a God Emperor perfect level Dao to a Hunyuan Dao was an even greater chasm, many times harder, and the point where many gifted cultivators abandoned the Dao path to cultivate bloodlines or seek other escape routes. How can such a massive body be controlled? He kept asking. He sketched prototype solutions in his mind, but each one he rejected the moment it formed. He could already see their future limits. Luo Feng wandered across the dark sacred world, cultivating as he went, stopping to probe and digest new insights. He dispatched low-level Hunyuan life casually, killing a weaker one, sometimes drew stronger predators. and killing those could attract teams intent on revenge. His biomimetic extinction eye scanned for threats. When danger loomed, he slipped through spatial rifts and retreated instantly. After half an epoch of travel and contemplation, he reached an ancient city. Luo Feng hovered, sensing it. Chengfeng City, he thought. He suppressed his aura and stepped through space into the city, moving through its streets unnoticed. The dark sacred world gathered the strongest beings from countless surrounding source worlds. The minimum threshold to enter was a God Emperor late-stage Tao comprehension. Even many primal chaos bloodline cultivators were at the bottom of this place. He felt his friends, Bai Yin and the two companions from Deputy Palace Master Xingzhe's team, nearby in Chengfeng City through karmic resonance, but he did not seek them out. He headed for the Hunyuan Hall instead. Of the 5 cities in the dark sacred world, only the central Hunyuan city had a large Hunyuan Hall. When the dark sacred world was first established, there was only Hunyuan City, the city left behind by Senior Yuan and his companions. Over the long years, cultivators had exchanged battle merits to build 4 other cities to make hunting for low-level Hunyuan life easier. Luo Feng flew directly to the 2nd floor of the Hunyuan Hall. 2 tall puppet figures stood motionless there. When he arrived, they opened their eyes in unison, and an invisible aura filled the floor. Cultivator Luo Feng, do you wish to confirm battle merits or exchange for treasures? One asked. Both were puppet custodians left by Senior Yuan and his companions to ensure absolute fairness. Confirm battle merits, Luo Feng replied, producing his storage bracelet and breaking its seal. The puppet beings probed inside without emotion. The storage contained a terrifying number of low-level Hunyuan life corpses. Low-level Hunyuan life corpses, 9 superlimit level, 2,902 God Emperor perfect level, 39,522 God Emperor late stage, 68,990 God Emperor middle stage, 83,160 God Emperor early stage. Cultivator Luo Feng, your current battle merits are 7,700, 7,660, one puppet reported. Luo Feng absorbed the figure. Though peak-level beings in the dark sacred world often had millions of battle merits, acquired over long years and frequently bought with Hunyuan crystal, Luo Feng's were the result of his own hunting. 10 Hunyuan crystal could buy 1 unit of battle merit. By spending hundreds of billions of Hunyuan crystal, some had bought hundreds of battle merits. So while veteran powerhouses could amass riches that way, Luo Feng's 7+ million battle merits, earned purely through his own efforts, were impressive. 7 million should be more than enough, he decided, and headed to the 1st floor of the Hunyuan Hall to sell the corpses. Chapter 343, The Strongest in the Dark Sacred World. On the 1st floor of the Hunyuan Hall in Chengfeng City, the place where low-level Hunyuan life remnants were bought and sold, only 3 powers were licensed to conduct acquisitions. Cultivators usually secluded themselves for long periods, and hunting was rare, so it was uncommon to see many buyers. At this moment, Luo Feng was the only customer. I have a batch of low-level Hunyuan life carcasses to sell. The 3 of you can take a look and make your offers. Luo Feng said, holding a storage wristband and releasing its seal so others could see inside. A batch? The 3 God Emperors in charge of the hall hurried over and sent wisps of thought to probe the wristband's contents. When they saw it, they were stunned. Inside were dense heaps of low-level Hunyuan life carcasses, far more than any of them had ever seen. Acquiring even 1,000 at once was usually considered a lot. In the dark sacred world, hunting was dangerous. Attacking the weak drew stronger foes. Attacking the strong invited powerful teams. Large halls of low-level Hunyuan life were extremely rare. This is too much, the 3 God Emperors said, astonished and at a loss for words. My name is Luo Feng, he answered when one of them asked. Whichever of your 3 powers offers the highest price can buy the entire lot. Luo Feng continued, if I don't get a satisfactory offer, I'll take them to other cities. God Emperor Luo Feng, please don't rush. This is a large transaction. We must report it. The 3 were anxious. Even with slim profit margins, such a haul could be extremely lucrative. Luo Feng turned and noticed 3 figures approaching from a distance, an old man, a winged woman, and a youth in red robes. As they drew near, their auras made the surrounding cultivators hesitate to approach. Brother Luo Feng. The red-robed youth Qi Zheng called out. Brother Luo Feng, long time no see, the old man, Bo Shu, greeted warmly. The winged woman, God Emperor Bai Yin, smiled lightly as well. When they landed on the first floor, the God Emperors of the hall bowed respectfully. The three newcomers clearly had high status in Chengfeng City. I was going to stop by after the transaction, Luo Feng said with a smile. Your gains from that city defense battle were immense. For a deal this big, the ordinary God Emperors will have to report it. Come, come, let's go to my cave mansion and rest while we wait for their reply. Bo Shu invited. You three powers may discuss jointly buying the lot, but if the price is too low, my brother Luo Feng won't sell. Let's go, Bai Yin said with a smile, and Luo Feng nodded. The four of them flew off together toward Bo Shu's cave mansion. The ordinary God Emperors below whispered to each other in astonishment. What kind of background does Luo Feng have to possess so many low-level Hunyuan life carcasses? He seems to be close with Bo Shu and the others. They immediately reported everything, including images of the hundreds of thousands of carcasses. The intelligence caused a stir among Chengfeng City's peak existences. Few could match Luo Feng's sudden fortune. Inside Bo Shu's large, pale white cave mansion, the four of them sat scattered, drinking and talking. Ha! Meeting again in the dark sacred world is a blessing. Drink up, Bo Shu laughed. Sister Bai Yin was planning to go into seclusion, but she guessed Brother Luo Feng might come, so she delayed it, she teased. Bai Yin smiled. At this stage of cultivation, secluding myself likely won't gain me even an inch. Brother Luo Feng's talent is exceptional. His guidance might be more useful than my seclusion over hundreds of millions of epochs. Reaching the peak level had left all three of them stuck at a bottleneck. They cherished any chance to gain insight that might help them break through. They were willing to lower their stance before Luo Feng, believing he had surpassed them after his recent breakthrough. Once his strength consolidated, he might become even more formidable. I'm stuck in a bottleneck too, Luo Feng admitted. I'm wondering, if a physical body becomes incredibly vast, how can the mind and will control it perfectly? How large? Qi asked. Think of the super-limit vast hoof race, already famous for massive physical bodies. What if the body were 100,000 times larger? Luo Feng said. With the perfect divine body's energy reserve 1.2 billion times greater, he estimated such a size roughly 100,000 times that of a super-limit vast hoof. How could a God Emperor fully control a body that huge? Bo Shu, Qi, and Bai Yin were shocked. The vast hoof's physical body is already unrivaled among low-level Hunyuan life. 100,000 times that. Even if one broke out of the cage, it'd be impossible to control perfectly, Bo Shu said. I've never heard of anyone at the God Emperor realm doing it, Qi added. Perhaps only by breaking out of the cage and becoming a high-level origin life could one hope to manage such a body, Bai Yin concluded. Luo Feng shook his head. The God Emperor perfect path of creation and destruction he pursued kept his life level at the God Emperor stage. Theoretically, his physical body could reach such scale. If he broke out of the cage to become a high-level origin life, then a qualitative change might allow control. Just then, Bo Shu's expression brightened. Brother Luo Feng, the city lord contacted me. He'll offer 73 trillion Hunyuan crystals for your batch of origin life carcasses. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. He understood the value of his spoils. The two strongest in the dark sacred world now are God Emperor Ji Qi, who refined a world-level Hunyuan bloodline, and Dragon 9 Dao Lord, who cultivates 3.5 primordial origin-level paths. Our Chengfeng City Lord, Feng Chao City Lord, is Dragon 9 Dao Lord's junior brother, so he's the most willing buyer in the city, Bo Shu explained. How close are they to the invincible level? Luo Feng asked. They're only a bit stronger than us, Qi said. Combined, our three teams would rival either of them. Luo Feng nodded. As far as he knew, the dark sacred world had about 1,000 peak existences, and GK and Dragon 9 were already among the strongest, likely comparable to him. Strictly speaking, the three strongest in the dark sacred world were probably GK, Dragon 9, and Luo Feng himself. Invincible existences were rare, and typically those who had broken out of the cage. The other two powers already bid, Bo Shu went on. One offered 71 trillion, the other 72.2 trillion. We need to reply, and then the City Lord will raise the Hunyuan crystals. Sell it to the City Lord, Luo Feng said. He was satisfied with the 73 trillion offer. Since you've agreed, the city lord will begin raising the Hunyuan crystals, Boshu said. By the way, brother Luo Feng, do you need any treasures? The city lord can give you a good price. With such a huge sum to raise, all three powers had proactively made offers. If Luo Feng hadn't agreed, there'd be no need to collect the funds. I do need some items, Luo Feng said. I need Hunyuan bloodlines and also auxiliary cultivation treasures. In a few breaths, Boshu replied. All low-level Hunyuan life bloodlines from the surrounding world cluster are available in the dark sacred world. Here's a list. Prices are low. Luo Feng skimmed the list. The dark sacred world was the core of the surrounding world cluster and gathered the most peak cultivators and the largest variety of low-level Hunyuan bloodlines. I'll buy one of every low-level Hunyuan bloodline that combines life and destruction, and each should come with 12 ordinary remnant materials, Luo Feng said. I'll also buy one of every purely life or purely destruction bloodline with materials. He was wealthy enough to buy every creation and destruction-related bloodline, from God Emperor, early stage, to super limit level, aside from those he'd already purchased. All this only costs 125.2 billion Hunyuan crystals? Luo Feng calculated and smiled. He hadn't even spent a fraction of his wealth. The big expense was the super limit bloodlines, each roughly 500 million Hunyuan crystals. He bought all life type, destruction type, and combined type superlimit bloodlines, 189 types in total. I'll also buy some auxiliary treasures, he added. His experience with the 100 Tribulation Heart Marrow had been good, and stuck at a bottleneck, he could now afford to buy better aids. In one go, he spent 30 billion yuan crystals on auxiliary treasures. That should do it, Luo Feng told Boshu. Do you want anything else? The auxiliary items you bought are a bit few. Even used sparingly, they won't last 100 million epochs, Boshu asked. That's plenty, Luo Feng replied. After all, it had only been a few thousand epochs since he had broken through the cycle of reincarnation and arrived on the origin continent. Chapter 344, Think Again. After reworking the plot of Dark Sacred World, I'll take one more day to prepare it more thoroughly. I ask for your understanding. Chapter 345, Arrive at Hunyuan City alive? Boshu, Qi, and Bai Yin exchanged looks. Luo Feng noticed something off about his three friends. What's wrong? He asked. Brother Luo Feng, the red-robed youth Qi said, you sold goods worth about 7.3 trillion Hunyuan crystals this time. But so far, you've only spent a little on treasures. You still have over 7 trillion left. You're planning to take it to the large Hunyuan Hall in Hunyuan City, aren't you? Luo Feng nodded. In the dark sacred world, the truly valuable treasures are mainly in the large Hunyuan Hall. That ancient Hunyuan Hall contained everything imaginable, more treasures than even infinite space. It offered exchanges for cities, various Hunyuan bloodlines, secret treasures like the Eye of Creation and Destruction, and even living Hunyuan prisoners. Of course, I plan to use these Hunyuan crystals in the Hunyuan Hall, Luo Feng said, carrying over 7 trillion Hunyuan crystals with you. Boshu shook his head. Do you think you can make it to Hunyuan City alive? Luo Feng stiffened. You mean? Secret Ruin God Emperor Bai Yin poured wine for Luo Feng and spoke softly. Brother Luo Feng, the dark sacred world is called dark for a reason. Are you not aware of the chaos here? I've heard about it, Luo Feng replied. At present, Bai Yin continued, the two strongest in the dark sacred world, Dragon Nine Dao Lord and GK God Emperor, in terms of individual power, can only match the three of us combined. So here, unless one is an undying existence, individual strength isn't enough. Luo Feng thought for a moment. Boshu explained, in Chengfeng City, there are 3 major powers capable of buying your goods. They are also the 3 most influential forces in the city. The first is the City Lord's faction, which commands 29 peak-level existences. They're cohesive, and Dragon Nine Dao Lord is their actual leader. But he resides long-term in the large Hunyuan Hall in Hunyuan City, so the City Lord runs this force locally. The second is led by Secret Ruin God Emperor, 15 peak-level existences. Bai Yin is one of the top 3 array masters in the dark sacred world. With his arrays, the combined power of those 15 peak-level existences is terrifying. The third is the Tianlang 8 Friends, a group of 8 peak-level existences. They seem the weakest, but they once followed the undying Tianlang K. Tianlang K rose to undying quickly and then transcended the cage. We never saw him, but his fame remains. When he ascended, he left gifts and status for his followers. Boshu, Qi, and Bai Yin all looked at Luo Feng. They wanted to follow him because they believed he had the potential to become undying. Once someone truly becomes undying, they are guided away and no longer need followers, so those who recognize the potential early attach themselves closely. The Tianlang 8 Friends had done exactly that and reaped huge rewards. Luo Feng understood. The dark sacred world was the core of the surrounding world cluster. Many undying existences had risen here and left disciples and traces. Xing Yuan Lao from Yulan City, whom Luo Feng had met before, was one such disciple. Over 7 trillion Hunyuan crystals, Boshu said quietly. If you just try to leave Chengfeng City with them, even if the 3 of us help, we couldn't protect that amount. The City Lord's faction might be half likely to act, but the other 2 are almost certain to, Qi said. Bai Yin and his group desperately need resources and will make a move. The Tianlang 8 Friends might not lack resources, but after receiving gifts from Tianlang K, they may have suffered soul contamination that changed their temperament. They've become extremely greedy and ferocious. In the dark sacred world, the greatest danger is not a single individual, but a united force, Boshu said. The differences between peak-level existences aren't that great. If any 2 of these 3 unite, without undying power, resistance is impossible. Luo Feng nodded. Boshu suggested 2 plans. First, buy everything you can and have the sellers send the treasures directly to Transmission Holy Mountain. Arrange for a clone to receive them there and teleport them back to your source world. Second, convert most of your Hunyuan crystals into battle merits. In the large Hunyuan Hall, only relatively common treasures can be bought with Hunyuan crystals. Everything else requires battle merits. Once battle merits are converted and registered under your name, no one can seize them. We peak-level existences usually keep only a few hundred billion Hunyuan crystals and convert most into battle merits, Boshu added. Yours equals the accumulation of 10 peak-level existences, and it's all in Hunyuan crystals, which can be plundered. How many wouldn't be tempted? Qi agreed. The 3 were determined to cultivate a good relationship with Luo Feng and suppress their own greed, but they knew how much could be obtained for 7 trillion Hunyuan crystals. Thank you, Luo Feng said. After thinking, he added, I've heard high-level Hunyuan bloodlines can be bought with Hunyuan crystals in the large Hunyuan Hall. I need the high-level Hunyuan bloodlines that follow the path of creation and destruction. You can ask the City Lord's faction to buy them on your behalf, Boshu said. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines, senior Yuan and similar, aren't expensive, usually under 10 billion Hunyuan crystals each. I've collected information on the high-level Hunyuan bloodlines for sale in the large Hunyuan Hall, Bai Yin said. There are 73 types related to creation and destruction. Exchanging for them would require 533 billion Hunyuan crystals. Get them all, Luo Feng said. Have the City Lord's faction send every bloodline and auxiliary cultivation treasure I buy to Transmission Holy Mountain. At that moment, Luo Feng's clone far away on the origin continent had already split off another clone and was preparing to teleport to the dark sacred world through the canyon lake. For the remaining Hunyuan crystals, please help me buy 30 million battle merits, Luo Feng added. Are you in a hurry? Boshu asked. What's the difference? Luo Feng asked. If you're not in a hurry, the City Lord's faction can collect slowly. 30 million battle merits might take hundreds of millions of epoch years to accumulate, Boshu said. Many cultivators can accept that. By collecting slowly, each unit would 110,000 Hunyuan crystals. In the 9 Rivers Sacred World cities, the general acquisition price is about 100,000 per unit. Accounting for effort and intermediaries, your price is naturally a bit higher, Qi noted. How about a rush purchase? Luo Feng asked. For a rush, 30 million would still take tens of thousands of epoch years. Each unit would cost 120,000 Hunyuan crystals, Boshu said. That price is already relatively low after competition among forces in the dark sacred world. That's still too slow, Luo Feng said. Can it be faster? Offer a higher price, and many worlds centered on the dark sacred world would prioritize giving you their battle merits, Boshu said. If I offer 130,000 Hunyuan crystals per unit, it could be gathered in about 1,000 epochs. The profit margin would be 30%, Qi added. That's already very high. Gathering 30 million battle merits quickly requires pulling from many worlds. Luo Feng agreed. Deliver 10 million battle merits at a time. With his current strength inside the dark sacred world, once outside Chengfeng City and beyond its protections, Luo Feng didn't trust that he could survive an encirclement of peak-level existences. He had to convert as many battle merits under his name as possible. I also need some powerful secret treasures, Luo Feng said. Anything in the creation and destruction category. Those are rare. Chengfeng City might not be willing to sell many creation and destruction treasures, Bo Shu warned. I'll pay a high price, Luo Feng said with a smile. Such secret treasures, Undying Heart level or Palm World level, were sometimes owned by half-primordial origin powerhouses. For instance, the Deputy Palace Master Wei Yang's clone in Yulan City had 2. Peak-level existences often had several. Items like the Eye of Creation and Destruction were even harder, often unsellable or restricted from leaving a source world. Since you're offering a high price, it will be easier to negotiate, Bo Shu said with a grin. Across Chengfeng City, in the City Lord's mansion, Feng Chao City Lord sat tall and solid like a rock giant. His golden eyes scanned the room. He was a peak-level existence and one of the 5 City Lords in the dark sacred world, Dragon 9 Dao Lord's most trusted junior brother. He commanded 28 other peak-level existences, and his force's influence was renowned. 7.3 trillion Hunyuan crystals. This God Emperor Luo Feng is extravagant. One of his advisors murmured. Intelligence reports rolled out. His strength is formidable, capable of suppressing 4 superlimit existences. But he allowed 4 lesser Hunyuan life core to enter Yulan City, then, coincidentally, set an array that trapped and slaughtered them. 90% were wiped out. In my opinion, that was planned. Let the city fall, lure the enemy deep, then harvest. He obtained nearly half the core families of low-level Hunyuan life in the 9 Rivers sacred world. What brilliant scheming! He arrived in Yulan City only about 2,000 epochs ago. The weakness he once showed may have been a disguise. He might have discovered the birth of an overlimit heart-bewildering worm and laid an ambush in Yulan City to wait for the low-level Hunyuan life to attack. The peak-level existences present, scattered throughout the mansion, began investigating Luo Feng from different angles and were astonished. They suspected much of what had happened was deliberate. They had not yet discovered his origin continent origins. Only Palace Master Yuan Xiang had been able to trace some connections thanks to his lordship of Yulan City and knowledge of Luo Feng's ties to Di Qing and ancestor Yan Feng. He bought all the low-level Hunyuan bloodlines related to creation and destruction, 38 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, plus 73 types of high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and auxiliary cultivation treasures. Calculated at 688 billion in total, one advisor summarized. Prepare everything and send it to Transmission Holy Mountain to be handed to his clone, Feng Chao City Lord ordered calmly. A transaction of 600 plus billion Hunyuan crystals was small change to his force. He also needs 30 million battle merits and is willing to pay 130,000 per unit, Feng Chao City Lord added with a slight smile. Mobilize all the low-level Hunyuan households we can and confirm their battle merits for God Emperor Luo Feng. Our inventory and what we can quickly pull from allied forces is about 800 units of battle merit, a black-robed elder reported. Let's earn what we can, Feng Chao said. He was satisfied. The vast number of low-level Hunyuan life households Luo Feng had purchased, worth 7.3 trillion Hunyuan crystals in total, could be disassembled, refined, and utilized in many ways. Middle and lower ranks of the faction could earn immediate returns, and high-level members could net a few hundred billion. Luo Feng's urgent need for battle merits made this an especially lucrative transaction. Even after costs, the profit would exceed 500 billion Hunyuan crystals. No war, no risk, just a windfall. Are we really not going to act? A seductive woman with a scaled tail asked, her voice tinged with excitement. If the Battle of Yulan City was his careful plan, this cultivator would give us no chance, Feng Chao's city lord replied. If it was not his plan and he truly possesses such terrifying talent, then he's even less suitable for plunder. Feng Chao held great influence and abundant resources. His priority was preserving status and gains, not taking heedless risks. Several present felt reluctant, but his word held. In another part of Chengfeng City, in a massive cave dwelling where space bent and light grew dim, 15 figures sat scattered. Our offer of 7.22 trillion failed, so the selling price was even higher, a sharp voice observed. If we can rob God Emperor Luo Feng, each of us could get hundreds of billions of Hunyuan crystals. This is huge, a spherical black voice said. Operating their own forces had been too slow. This windfall was irresistible. The 15 had long been suppressed by the city lord's faction and lagged in acquiring resources. We can't act inside the city, a thin man with a hint of the origin essence of the source world said as he sat cross-legged. His presence stabilized the cave's arrays. We must wait patiently for an opportunity. With so much wealth to convert into battle merits, he must go to the large Hunyuan Hall, another said. That will be our chance. They didn't lack courage. The 15 had never feared uniting against a target in the dark sacred world. Now they waited, eyes fixed on the one place the treasure could be safely converted. Hunyuan City. Chapter 346. Lift the Veil. On the third day after Luo Feng arrived in Chengfeng City, he stood inside Boshu God Emperor's cave mansion. They're here. Boshu, Baiyin, Qi, and Luo Feng came forward to greet Feng Chao's city lord and his party of peak-level existences. City lord. Boshu smiled. Is this Luo Feng God Emperor? Feng Chao's city lord, who looked like a giant carved from stone, examined Luo Feng closely. To gather the resources for this deal, we haven't rested much these last 2 or 3 days, he said with a grin. Putting together a transaction worth 7.3 trillion Hunyuan crystals, along with vast amounts of Hunyuan bloodline material and battle merits, would strain even Feng Chao's faction. Luo Feng returned the smile. City Lord, you've worked hard. Feng Chao studied the black-clad, black-haired man. On the surface, Luo Feng didn't look like a schemer, but cultivators should never be judged by appearances. We just heard some news about Luo Feng God Emperor. In barely over 2,000 eras, from Yulan City of the Nine Rivers Sacred World, he rose from an ordinary God Emperor to the peak. Remarkable, he praised. That growth rate is rare even in dark sacred world. The other peak existences echoed the praise, watching Luo Feng carefully. They were curious. Had he really advanced so rapidly, or was he disguising his true age? Shall we get to the main business? Boshu asked. Good, let's trade first. Feng Chao nodded. Luo Feng produced a storage bracelet, released its seal, and invited the guests to inspect. Everyone present poured their awareness into it. Inside were countless dense stacks of low-level Hunyuan life corpses, hundreds of thousands at a glance. Seeing them made the visitors' minds race. To acquire hundreds of thousands at once, truly impressive, Feng Chao exclaimed. On our side, we will immediately give Brother Luo Feng 10 million battle merits, the auxiliary cultivation treasures he purchased, and various Hunyuan bloodline accompaniments. We'll also add 5.312 trillion Hunyuan crystals. As for the remaining 20 million battle merits Brother Luo Feng pre-ordered, we estimate we'll have them within 1,000 eras, and then we'll complete the handover. Luo Feng nodded. He knew every 10 million battle merits required about 1.3 trillion Hunyuan crystals, so the remaining 20 million would need another 2.6 trillion, a payment for later. I need the Hunyuan bloodline and the auxiliary treasures sent to Transmission Holy Mountain, Luo Feng said. His clone was already waiting there. They will be delivered now, Feng Chao replied. At Transmission Holy Mountain, Luo Feng's clone sat cross-legged by the dim lake, awaiting the delivery. Almost at once, a ship appeared on the horizon and landed by the water. 3 peak-level escorts disembarked, a team experienced at transporting high-level origin life and corresponding materials from large Hunyuan halls. This cargo represented over 600 billion Hunyuan crystals. They treated it with utmost care. Luo Feng God Emperor. Luo Feng stood to greet them and confirmed the transfer with Chengfeng City. After inspecting the goods and confirming everything was intact, he dove into the nearby transmission lake, locked onto the coordinates of the source world's origin continent, and returned in an instant. On the origin continent, inside a quiet room of a star tower in Huyang City Lord's Mansion, a contained space held Luo Feng's entire collection of bloodlines and materials. All low-level Hunyuan bloodlines related to life and destruction within the world cluster centered on Dark Sacred World have been collected, he noted, and a total of 73 types of high-level origin life, combining creation and destruction, have been gathered. Within this pocket of the Star Tower, every Hunyuan bloodline was arranged carefully, each accompanied by its 12 corresponding materials. Low-level Hunyuan bloodlines were cataloged in much finer grades. High-level origin life were classified more broadly: God Emperor Early, God Emperor Middle, God Emperor Late, God Emperor Consummation, and Superlimit level. Luo Feng reflected aloud, all creation and destruction types are combined, but none are naturally fused. Skyborn mixed source life are born with the basic, pure Daos, time, space, life, darkness, destruction, but not fused Daos. Naturally fused Daos are virtually non-existent. That's why creating them is so difficult. He wanted to find a way through the bottleneck he had encountered by studying these bloodlines. Between his brows, his eye of creation and destruction opened as he began a careful examination. He produced a red fruit and ate it in a few bites. Invisible energies nourished his soul consciousness. His thought speed spiked 100-fold, and his awareness felt light and exquisite. With his resources, he could afford such auxiliary treasures permanently. Still, at first, he found no breakthrough. Even with the eye of creation and destruction, which let him perceive deeply into most mysteries, nothing in the low-level Hunyuan bloodlines contained a method for controlling a massive physical body. His envisioned primal chaos life-death Tao required a body far larger than any low-level Hunyuan life, so this result wasn't surprising. Now to study the high-level origin life, Luo Feng decided. The largest of the 73 high-level origin life gleamed like crystalline scarlet liquid, shimmering with strange illusions. A fiery red giant bird seemed to spread its wings on its surface, ready to take flight. "This is my first time observing high-level origin life," he murmured. The qualitative leap from low-level Hunyuan life to a high-level origin life was staggering. Even trillions of low-level bodies counted for nothing beside one high-level origin life. His eye of creation and destruction probed that scarlet life. Its vitality was immense. Lifeline mysteries accounted for roughly 50%, destruction for about 30%, the rest a mix of matter and the immeasurable. The difficulty of observation shot up. Even with his eye, some layers were shrouded. With the eye's help, Luo Feng's perceptive power matched that of a normal high-level origin life, but not all secrets were revealed. The deepest layers remained behind an invisible veil. Still, this level of material was far more useful to him. High-level origin life were now within his comprehension range and were no longer the unreachable mysteries they might once have been. He recalled reports of cultivators who had comprehended high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and achieved ultimate bloodline awakening, breaking free from the cage. If they could reach ultimate awakening, then piecing together parts of a bloodline was reasonable. Luo Feng set to work patiently and let time pass day after day. Then, suddenly his eye fixed on something. "This," he whispered. A portion of a high-level origin life's mysteries unfolded before him, and within it he saw the structure he had been searching for, a system of mind and consciousness capable of controlling a massive physical body. "Found it. Finally found it," he breathed. The discovery proved he'd been looking in the right place. This particular high-level origin life, named Heavenly Fire Shadow, possessed a colossal physique. High-level origin life tend to be huge, but sizes vary, and this one was among the largest. Over the next 100 days, Luo Feng examined the other high-level origin life. Gradually, he found the pattern he hoped for. Among these 73 high-level origin life, only 3 contain the mysteries of mind and consciousness control over a massive body, he realized. All 3 belonged to the exceptionally large-bodied types. Those 3 were Heavenly Fire Shadow, Nether Prison Disaster Beast, and Nine-Headed Chaos Beast. With them as references and guides, a breakthrough through his bottleneck was now within reach. If he hadn't managed to acquire these particular specimens, he might have wandered in the dark for far longer. That was cultivation. When a skyborn mixed source life reveals a path, the way forward becomes far easier. Luo Feng returned his focus to the heavenly fire shadow. As he dissected its systems, it became clear how the creature controlled its vast form. The mysteries were tangled. Mind and consciousness control was interwoven with countless other principles. But step by step, the core mechanisms revealed themselves. So this is how the heavenly fire shadow commands that massive body, Luo Feng said to himself. He had only seen the surface, but he had grasped the basic principles. Chapter 347, Mind and Consciousness System, Part 1. Luo Feng sat cross-legged on a layer of the star tower, his eye of creation and destruction glowing on his brow as he observed the high-level Hunyuan bloodline of the heavenly fire shadow. A realization hit him, and he murmured, "Why didn't I think of this before?" With his attainments in the path of life, Luo Feng understood that every unit of life carried boundless vitality and could generate self-awareness. The primal chaos life-death Tao that he had theorized would have a body far vaster than a primordial universe, comparable in size to some high-level origin life forms. Though the essence of its life was different, the sheer scale meant its most basic life units numbered billions upon billions more than the dust particles in a primordial universe. Each unit could produce its own consciousness. If every unit spawned a consciousness, how many subconsciences would there be in total? Those countless subconsciences, sharing the same memory, would naturally merge and converge into the vast, complete mind consciousness Luo Feng now possessed. The life form of my theoretical primal chaos life-death Tao is infinitely more complex than a primordial universe, he thought. But these subconsciences, born in different parts of that vast life form, would have differing instincts and tendencies. Some love to think, some love to fight, some love to sleep, some lean toward joy, others toward anger, others intensely dislike anger. When all these subconsciences unite, much is inevitably lost. 99% or more could be sacrificed in the fusion. Luo Feng understood, an enormous body is harder to command. It's like leading an army, 10,000, 100,000, a billion. The larger the force, the harder to coordinate. His own number of subconsciences was beyond reckoning. They did not all relish combat or cultivation. Some sought only comfort, some wanted to absorb energy and spawn more life units, some wanted to cull weaker units. A body founded on the path of creation and destruction would be constantly eliminating weaker life units and birthing new ones every moment. If my body were smaller, control would be easier, he admitted. But I pursue ultimate body size, so I've hit this bottleneck. Any colossal life form in the cultivator camp would face this same problem. Without a solution, such a body could never be fully controlled. The key, Luo Feng realized, lay in establishing a mind-consciousness system, an organized structure to unify subconsciences more efficiently and reduce loss. Even a modest reduction in that loss could make the resulting mind consciousness 10 times or more stronger. He examined the heavenly fire shadow's Hunyuan bloodline with his eye of creation and destruction. The path of creation and destruction at his God Emperor late stage had already hit a bottleneck. It lacked the deeper integration of a mind consciousness system. Only by fusing such a system into the body could the path of creation and destruction truly reach primal chaos level. He had gleaned a lot from the heavenly fire shadow's Hunyuan bloodline, but the mind consciousness system was vast and complex, and his insights were incomplete. There was one problem. His eye of creation and destruction could not penetrate the deepest secrets of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline. The insights he'd gained were missing core parts. Relying on only those fragments could take him millions, perhaps tens of millions, of eras to perfect the mind consciousness system. He needed a way to observe a complete high-level Hunyuan bloodline. The infinite space had a treasure that could help. On the island at the heart of the infinite space's lake, Luo Feng sat cross-legged. He had been saving reward points for a long time. Now, at this crucial moment, he finally spent them. He exchanged 200,000 reward points for the Wisdom Book, an artifact refined from pieces of a Hunyuan ancestor's body materials. The Wisdom Book's value far exceeded that of the Eye of Creation and Destruction. It could analyze all things, probe the great Tao, and assist cultivation. Where the eye excelled at observing vitality and destructive weaknesses, The wisdom book specialized in studying Hunyuan life materials and bloodline abilities. It was prohibited from leaving the source world, but within the source world, it could be used permanently until the user died, at which point it would return to infinite space. Exchange, Luo Feng confirmed. The system responded, this was the 9th exchange of a wisdom book. Of the previous 8 exchangers, 3 had broken free from the cage and become high-level origin life forms. Luo Feng smiled. The success rate among wisdom book exchangers was higher than among those who had taken the eye, and those 3 who had broken free were apparently still alive. Still, the wisdom book had to be returned on death. After the exchange, Luo Feng had 11,093.03 reward points left. He sighed with satisfaction. This purchase was worth it. Back at the Huyang City Lord's mansion in Origin Continent, inside the Star Tower, Luo Feng examined the black book. It looked ordinary, but its price attested to its value. He activated it with a thought. An invisible fluctuation flowed from the book and enveloped the segment of the Heavenly Fire Shadow's high-level Hunyuan bloodline he had been observing. The book's analysis completed in an instant. He opened the cover. The pages inside were crystal clear, yet layered with countless spatial strata. Mysterious secret patterns spread across the layers like a great tree, alive and slowly changing. The full picture of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline lay before him, existing simultaneously across numerous spatial layers and across time. Only by studying it across different spatial layers and epochs could one approach its whole truth. Even so, the material was profoundly complex, like a text translated word for word, but still difficult to fully comprehend. Luo Feng's eye of creation and destruction flared. Under its scrutiny, the intricate patterns revealed vital nodes and destructive weaknesses. Key nodes emerged from the chaos, and his understanding deepened rapidly. The wisdom book analyzed the Hunyuan bloodline thoroughly. The eye highlighted critical nodes. Together, their combination accelerated Luo Feng's comprehension. Most importantly, with the wisdom book, he could finally penetrate the deep-seated parts of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline, areas his eye alone could not unveil. He focused his study on 3 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines that contained a mind-consciousness system: Heavenly Fire Shadow, Nether Prison Disaster Beast, and the 9-headed Chaos Beast. Dark Sacred World, Chengfeng City. Luo Feng had been staying in the cave mansion of his friend God Emperor Bo Shu. God Emperor Bai Yin and God Emperor Qi Zheng also lived there permanently. Luo Feng's energy reserves, however, were too low. His body's reserves had barely exceeded 4,000 times that of the perfect divine body. He needed far more to test the mind-consciousness system in practice. Comprehending such a system required repeated practical application. Theory alone wouldn't prove its effectiveness, practice would. Luo Feng messaged Bo Shu. Bo Shu replied warmly. He and the others were more than willing to help. The best way is to go to the large Hunyuan Hall in Hunyuan City, Bo Shu said. The cultivation cave mansions there can supply an effectively infinite stream of life energy. As long as you can withstand it, you can absorb whatever you need. But you can't leave Chengfeng City right now, so we'll have to rely on some treasures. The fastest option is a world source pearl, Bo Shu continued. It can create a miniature source world inside your body and act as an internal origin, rapidly replenishing your strength. World source pearls are common in the large Hunyuan Hall. With a bit of markup, they're easy to get. Please help me buy one, Luo Feng replied. He didn't care about markup. In moments, Bo Shu messaged back. A friend, God Emperor Yu Hei, would sell a world source pearl to Luo Feng for 5.5 billion Hunyuan crystals with no markup and would personally deliver it. Yu Hei greatly admired Luo Feng and was eager to support him. World source pearls in the large Hunyuan Hall typically cost 50,000 battle achievements apiece. Yu Hei's sale for Hunyuan crystals without profit showed the esteem some god emperors held for Luo Feng. While some forces tried to plunder him for profit, others simply wanted to follow him but lacked the chance. Thanks to the new alliance leader, Kaka, for the reward. Chapter 348, The Mind and Consciousness System, Part 2. Help me thank GK God Emperor, Luo Feng sent in a message. He now understood the caliber of peak-level powers in the dark sacred world. There were barely over 1,000 of them, and GK was one of the foremost. By the way, brother Luo Feng, Boshu God Emperor reminded. Didn't you plan to buy powerful creation and destruction secret treasures at a high price? I already spread the word. There are 5 God Emperors in Chengfeng City willing to sell such treasures. They can come whenever you like. Why not invite all 5 when you meet GK? Okay, thank you, Brother Boshu. Luo Feng felt moved. Relying only on the undying heart and the palm world, his combat methods were still simple. A few additional powerful secret treasures, coordinated with his current tools, would raise his strength considerably. Besides, those treasures contained higher-level mysteries useful for cultivation. It's a small thing. Boshu didn't take it personally. He and his 2 companions had met Yuanshang Palace Master in Yulan City, and thus knew Luo Feng well. They had noticed how rapidly he had grown and had privately agreed to follow him for several years, patiently, provided Luo Feng didn't break out of the cage. None of them spread word about him, and Yuanshang Palace Master, who had fully returned to the source world, also kept the matter secret. On the outskirts of Chengfeng City, in a modest cave dwelling, a man in a pale white robe, Jishu God Emperor, received Luo Feng's summons. Luo Feng God Emperor wants to summon me? He's willing to buy my creation and destruction secret treasure? Jishu brightened. He did not hesitate and immediately left the cave. Looking up at the sky, black snowflakes drifted down, chilling to the bone, but Jishu was filled with excitement. Finally, a peak-level being willing to buy my creation and destruction treasure. Maybe I can make a hefty profit. Prices for such treasures varied enormously depending on the buyer. God Emperors at late-stage Dao comprehension were notoriously stingy. They typically started negotiating at 2 to 3 billion Hunyuan crystals and barely raised the offer because they were poor. Even tens of billions counted as life savings to them. Half Hunyuan enlightenment figures like Wei Yang and Gai Tao might have accumulated hundreds of billions over the years and could spend more rationally. Only true peak-level existences tended to be generous. When they needed a treasure, they were willing to pay a significant premium. Jishu hoped Luo Feng's so-called high-price acquisition would pay even a little more. A small sum from Luo Feng's hands could equal everything Jishu had scraped together over limitless years. Jishu flew through the world of black ice and snow to the heart of Chengfeng City. The cave dwellings here were larger and fortified by even more terrifying formations. "Come in quickly, you're the last one," a puppet servant said upon his arrival. "Luo Feng God Emperor is currently receiving GK God Emperor. The 5 of you wait here." Jishu was led to a side hall where several other God Emperors had already gathered. He glanced around. Among the 5 waiting, 3 were late-stage Dao Comprehension God Emperors, and 2 were at half Hunyuan Enlightenment. All waited patiently. Luo Feng was entertaining GK God Emperor, a bird-headed figure with black feathers. Most cultivators in the world took on forms resembling High Yuan and such. Those who maintained their racial forms, like GK, were rare. "This world source pearl is also my spoils of war," GK said with a smile from his sharp beak, watching Luo Feng carefully. "It's been in my possession for hundreds of millions of years, and I've never used it. If Brother Luo Feng needs it, perhaps it is fated." Although the peak-level figures in Chengfeng City didn't know Luo Feng as well as Boshu, Yuanshang, and the others, they all recognized that Luo Feng had already been a peak-level existence before coming to the dark sacred world. That alone commanded respect and caution. Still, the City Lord's faction, Secret Ruin God Emperor's faction, and the Tianlang 8 friends were confident enough to meet Luo Feng head-on. "Thank you, Brother GK," Luo Feng said with a smile. "This world source pearl will truly help my cultivation." Luo Feng and GK exchanged a few more words while Boshu, Bai Yin, and Qi stood nearby. GK's visit was partly to show goodwill and form ties. After a brief conversation, he excused himself and left. "GK cultivates the paths of death and destruction, ferocious by nature. I've never seen him so friendly," said the red-robed youth Qi, smiling. "There are only a few in Chengfeng City who can calm him. Brother Luo Feng is one," Boshu added. "Let the other 5 guests come in," Luo Feng said. Soon the 5 arrived. "Greetings, Luo Feng God Emperor." "Greetings, all God Emperors." Even the 5 felt pressure entering the hall. Boshu and his 2 companions were already among the city's peak existences and held high status, but Luo Feng sat in the principal seat, it made a clear statement about relative standing. "You intend to sell creation and destruction secret treasures?" Luo Feng asked, smiling. "Bring them out. I will offer a suitably high price. Sell if you wish, leave if you don't." Each of the five produced the treasures they had prepared. To reach their strength, they had seized opportunities and obtained powerful artifacts, though not every artifact suited its holder. Often they needed to trade powerful secret treasures for world-class life materials or other resources. Life in the dark sacred world was harsh and earnings were scarce. Luo Feng inspected the five items: a Dan furnace, pill furnace, a formation diagram, a large axe, a long spear, and a painting. Luo Feng's thoughts probed each treasure in turn. These were all based on the life and destruction combination, some fused with partial mysteries. "For the Dan furnace, I offer 20 billion Hunyuan crystals. For each of the other four, 10 billion Hunyuan crystals," Luo Feng declared. "Decide if you'll sell." Joy lit their faces. "We agree. We're willing." All five were pleased. Items that usually went for 3 to 5 billion were being offered 10. A pill furnace that normally sold for nearly 10 billion was being offered 20. Even peak-level buyers rarely paid such premiums. Luo Feng, having secured over 70 billion Hunyuan crystals and able to hunt low-level Hunyuan life in the wild to replenish, could afford to overpay. Jishu, who had haggled the spear's price down to 3 or 4 billion before, was ecstatic. This 10 billion offer could equal a lifetime's accumulation for him. The deals were completed quickly. In the quiet room, Luo Feng examined the five treasures in satisfaction. Without such a premium, obtaining them would have required heavy negotiation and might not have succeeded. Doubling the price was decisive. If the seller was still greedy, he would simply send them away. Luo Feng liked the treasures, but he was not desperate. One more or one fewer would not change his core path. He stowed the treasures away and then produced the world's source pearl. The black pearl glowed faintly with purple light. After Luo Feng infused it with his power, he refined it with ease. What a world source pearl! No wonder it can act as the origin of a miniature source world inside the body. Its energy is truly abundant, Luo Feng murmured, pleased. Once refined, the pearl's power could be converted into his own energy with little friction. Rumble, conversion lasted 3 days. Luo Feng's physical energy reserve soared enormously. 1,000,000 times perfect divine body reserve. Controlling such a body strains me instead of strengthening me. Luo Feng felt the pressure but smiled. Perfect for testing some mysteries of the mind-consciousness system. Time passed. Luo Feng consumed various auxiliary treasures, and his thought processes accelerated to over 100 times normal speed. The mind-consciousness system slowly took shape. 1,000 epochs slipped by in the blink of an eye. Some forces in Chengfeng City, who had planned to ambush Luo Feng when he left the city, found he had entered seclusion at Boshu's cave dwelling and could not be found. They understood that a peak-level mind rarely gave away chances for plunder. During these 1,000 epochs, Luo Feng had also exchanged battle merits twice with the City Lord's faction, trading a total of 30 million battle merits. One day, the ceiling formations around Luo Feng's secluded cultivation spot, layers of arrays meant to keep him hidden, opened on their own. Boshu, Bai Yin, and Qi felt the shift. "Brother Luo Feng is coming out of seclusion?" they asked and hurried over. A familiar figure in black stepped out. They had seen Luo Feng many times, but this emergence felt different. As he came forth, a crushing pressure seemed to descend upon them, a suffocating weight. They all tensed. Luo Feng noticed immediately. "My complete physical body came out of seclusion. Its pressure is too great." Previously, when he came out to exchange battle merits, he had sent only a clone. This time he had brought out his massive physical body. He thought quickly and hid the powerful physical body inside the super-secret treasure painting world. Outside remained only a clone with a 10,000 times energy reserve. The oppressive sensation quickly eased. Boshu and the others relaxed as the pressure returned to normal. "Brother Luo Feng's cultivation this time seems to have been quite fruitful," Boshu said with a smile. Bai Yin and Qi stared in quiet astonishment. The oppressive weight they'd briefly felt was greater than anything GK God Emperor or Dragon 9 Dao Lord could produce on the surface. "There have been gains," Luo Feng admitted with a slight smile, but then shook his head. Cultivation still has many obstacles. I'm troubled. I plan to go to the large Hunyuan Hall in Hunyuan City. Chapter 349, Looking at the Enemies. Hunyuan City is the foremost city in the entire dark sacred world, and the large Hunyuan Hall has countless resources, Boshu said with a smile. Brother Luo Feng, you have enough battle merits to exchange for even more there. The red-robed youth Qi added, Brother Luo Feng, you're carrying trillions of Hunyuan crystal. Once you leave Chengfeng City, you're a prime target for robbery. Even if the three of us travel with you, we might not be able to handle the danger. It would be best to enlist more than 10 other peak existences, Boshu suggested. Brother Luo Feng, you already had peak strength before arriving in the dark sacred world. It shouldn't be hard to find some peaks in Chengfeng City willing to escort you. No need. Luo Feng shook his head gently. Don't make it so troublesome. Asking peak existences to escort him would create obligations, debts of favor that had to be repaid. The three of you can simply leave with me, Luo Feng said. Us? Boshu and Qi were surprised. Bai Yin God Emperor couldn't help but say, Brother Luo Feng, we mentioned before that the faction led by Secret Ruin God Emperor and the Tianlang 8 Friends are both potential robbers. We won't be able to stop them if they attack. Boshu nodded. The Tianlang 8 Friends received a gift from Tianlang Qi. Their temperaments changed drastically and their strength improved. If the 8 of them unite, the 3 of us won't last more than a few moves. Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 God Emperors, when they combine their methods, are even stronger than the Tianlang 8 Friends. We truly need help. Boshu knew the formidable power of Chengfeng City's major forces well. Luo Feng smiled and shook his head again. If we run into robbery, I can handle it myself. Boshu, Qi, and Bai Yin were stunned. You can handle it yourself? They all understood what that implied. Bai Yin looked at Luo Feng. When Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 combine, they undergo a qualitative change. Unless one possesses invincible level strength, one cannot defeat them. Now that you mention it, I'm actually looking forward to them making a move, Luo Feng said with a smile. Prepare yourselves. Once you're ready, we'll depart. If the 3 of you are uneasy and refuse to go, I'll simply set off alone. No, of course we'll accompany Brother Luo Feng, they all protested. We'll make a few preparations and depart soon. Luo Feng nodded and turned to leave. Watching him go, Boshu, Qi, and Bai Yin felt a rush of complicated emotion. From what he said, does he have the confidence to deal with Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15? Qi whispered. Could Brother Luo Feng already have reached the invincible level? Boshu frowned. When he emerged from seclusion, the pressure around him receded instantly. I felt it clearly. He must have made a major breakthrough in seclusion. Even if he can't defeat Secret Ruin God Emperor, he should at least be confident he can preserve his life and escape. Qi and Bai Yin both nodded. Defeating Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 required invincible level strength. Merely preserving one's life and fleeing was much more achievable. That same day, Boshu, Bai Yin, Qi, and Luo Feng boarded a warship and left Chengfeng City. Secret Ruin God Emperor's faction, constantly monitoring movements inside the city, used karmic sensing to lock onto their departure immediately. God Emperor Luo Feng has been in Chengfeng City for over 1,000 epochs. He's bought many treasures and exchanged 30 million battle merits. The Hunyuan crystal he carries now is estimated at nearly 3 trillion, a voice reported. Shall we act? We'll gain less than half of his original holdings, another replied. The total originally was 7.3 trillion Hunyuan crystal, but more than half was gone. Still, it's worth our action. If we miss this, who else would carry nearly 3 trillion Hunyuan crystal? Since there are no objections, let's move, Secret Ruin God Emperor transmitted. Gather and catch up to them. A flying shuttle left Chengfeng City, moving faster than ordinary craft. Inside a black warship, the Tianlang 8 Friends gathered, a dense, dark aura suffusing the vessel. If Secret Ruin God Emperor makes a move, we'll be left out, one murmured. Luo Feng's group has 4 peak-level existences. As long as they delay, we can catch up and team up with them. Compared to Luo Feng, Secret Ruin God Emperor will be a better whetstone for us. Using Secret Ruin God Emperor as the whetstone, maybe our minds and wills can break free from the cage entirely, another added. The gift Tianlong had given them carried slight contamination, an attached price to a powerful opportunity. But their situation was better than Yuanshang Hallmaster's. Their strength had increased slightly. With tempering, there was hope the Tianlang Eight Friends' minds and wills could break free from the cage. This might be our chance, they agreed. News spread fast. Many peak existences in the city sent clones to observe the coming confrontation. Inside the ancient warship, Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi were anxious. I can sense Secret Ruin God Emperor's karma. They're closing in fast, Qi transmitted. It won't be long. It's not just them. The Tianlang Eight Friends are approaching as well, Bai Yin added. Bo Shu looked toward the front hall, where Luo Feng stood alone, gazing at the vast scenery outside. Parts of the sky had become rivers of particles, boiling and emitting scattered energy. Elsewhere, a hurricane-like vortex crushed everything. The dark sacred world was filled with harsh environments where low-grade Hunyuan life could not survive. What a magnificent sight, Luo Feng said softly, calm and at ease. He did not regard Secret Ruin God Emperor's 15 or the Tianlang Eight Friends as worrying. During his 1,000-epoch seclusion, Luo Feng had used the Wisdom Book and the Eye of Creation and Destruction and consumed rare cultivation treasures to sustain his thought processing at a rate 100 times normal for extended stretches. I've studied the mind and consciousness systems contained in the 3 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines countless times, he thought. But those systems, Heavenly Fire Shadow, Nether Prison Disaster Beast, and Nine-Headed Chaos Beast, were suited to their original owners and not directly to him. Heavenly Fire Shadow's system penetrated every bit of life force. The Nether Prison Disaster Beast's body acted like a prison, self-imprisoning layers of life force to form an enormous but partially restrained body. Less explosive power, but capable of continuous eruptions. The Nine-Headed Chaos Beast had 9 independent consciousnesses, each commanding a portion of the body, developing and interacting freely. I've obtained 3 complete mind and consciousness systems and extracted their useful aspects to construct my own, Luo Feng thought. After 1,000 epochs of refinement, his mind and consciousness system had taken shape. He could now perfectly control hundreds of times the perfect divine body reserve. He was satisfied, but the primal chaos life-death Tao should control 1.2 billion times the reserve in theory. He planned to go to the large Hunyuan Hall to expand his physique and continue experimenting. They're here. Bo, Bai Yin, and Qi hurried to Luo Feng's side, their faces grave. Through karma, they confirmed Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 had arrived nearby. Luo Feng opened his biomimetic extinction eye and scanned the surroundings. Suddenly, the vast area turned into an endless gloom, no direction, no light. They had to rely on secret techniques to observe. What a formation, Luo Feng murmured, impressed. His eye revealed that the boundless gloom was actually the combined effect of 15 peak existences. Some emanated scorching flames, some invisible, annihilating winds, some black, devouring liquids, and some swarms of billions of insects, 15 powers operating as one. Under the unified formation, everything fell into nirvana, crushed and annihilated. Even peak-level existences would be overwhelmed. It's the mixed origin, life-extinguishing Tao Great Formation. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi tensed. They looked at Luo Feng, recalling his earlier confidence. The primordial origin rules operate, everything returning to nirvana. It's akin to great destruction, Luo Feng said. Secret Ruin God Emperor must have witnessed the great destruction of the source world. He paused. But this fragment of great destruction is too weak. Luo Feng stepped forward. Whoosh! He instantly left the warship and stood in midair, perfectly controlling over 1,000,000 times the perfect divine body reserve. The vast space-time around him began to collapse and distort. During the Yulan City battle, his unleashed power had been able to tear cracks in the world. Now his life form's might was far greater. Under this large-scale eruption, billions of kilometers of space-time warped and collapsed. The closer to Luo Feng, the worse the distortion and the faster time flowed. Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 originally hidden in the formation felt the world's space-time collapsing. It was as if a tremendously heavy existence had pressed down, causing the collapse. How stable is the dark sacred world's space-time? Short-distance traversal is extremely difficult. How can something cause such a massive collapse? They wondered. They could see the black-clothed, black-haired figure at the center, Luo Feng. The world's space-time visibly collapsed around him. The place he stood was the core. The surrounding formation shattered and was swallowed up by the distortion. The 15 were swept up by the collapsing space-time, forced toward Luo Feng. Space-time is too heavy. I can't break free, one shouted. I can't escape. Within this collapsing range, spatial traversal is impossible. They realized in despair they lacked any ability to flee. In the face of the world's collapse, they couldn't form a coordinated formation or cooperate. Each of them could only struggle individually against the collapsing space-time as it dragged them toward Luo Feng. Luo Feng stood calm and composed in the center, watching the scene unfold. He had only to remain in place, and his enemies would come to him, one by one. Chapter 350, Invincible Level. He's an invincible being? We 15 at peak level, working together, were powerless. He must be invincible. Shouldn't an invincible be summoned away as they appear? As the collapsing space-time swept them along and flung them toward Luo Feng, Secret Ruin God Emperor and the other 15 God Emperors could hardly accept what was happening. They had actually offended an invincible being. In the dark sacred world, peak level was already regarded as the limit. An invincible would normally be summoned away the moment they showed potential to break out of the cage. Invincible meant unchallengeable. Invincible meant a strong chance of escaping the cage. Once a cultivator was identified as having invincible potential, everyone at peak rank would vie to become their follower, hoping for favors if they ever broke free. We ran into an invincible, didn't become his ally, didn't follow him. We ganged up on him, they muttered in disbelief. How did this happen? The battle at Yulan City was so recent, he was only peak level then. Only 1,000 epochs have passed. How did he become invincible so fast? We actually tried to ambush an invincible being? Despair spread through the group as the collapsing space-time finally stabilized their forms and deposited them before Luo Feng. An invisible force surrounded them. One by one, they stood before him. Luo Feng God Emperor, they intoned in unison. Despite their panic, they kept a veneer of respect, suppressing any hint of insolence. You came to ambush me? Luo Feng asked, interested. The warped space-time for hundreds of millions of kilometers around him continued to buckle and twist, leaving no hope of escape. We were foolish. We were deceived. We were greedy for resources. Please, Luo Feng God Emperor, spare us. The God Emperors pleaded, humbling themselves. Luo Feng glanced to the side. Under his protection, Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi had been able to maintain their composure even as the surrounding space-time collapsed. The three watched the scene unfold, stunned. He handled it like that? Brother Luo Feng was already invincible? They had only pledged themselves to him recently and hadn't drawn many favors yet. Brother Luo Feng. Bo Shu was the first to recover his cool. Among cultivators, an ambush is a grave enmity. Since they came to ambush you, any punishment from you would not be excessive. Even wiping out each of their clones so they can never establish themselves in the dark sacred world would be justified. Right, Qi added quickly. Brother Luo Feng already has invincible strength. Just announce it to the 5 cities and they'll have nowhere to hide in the entire dark sacred world. Those words threw Secret Ruin and the others into greater anguish. Most of them had clones in the source world, so losing a few clones wasn't the worst outcome. But if Luo Feng severed their ability to establish themselves in the dark sacred world, that would be catastrophic. The wealth and battle merits they'd accumulated were exchanged for cultivation resources at the large Hunyuan Hall. If they couldn't come to the dark sacred world, they'd lose 99% of those resources. We know we made a grave mistake. Secret Ruin God Emperor said and began to kneel. Please, Luo Feng God Emperor, give us a glimmer of hope. Don't cut off our path to cultivation. A peak-level being, kneeling first prompted hesitation, but one by one the others followed. Those who had initially resisted soon bowed as well. One by one, they begged. They could have stayed comfortable in the source world, but for the sake of their cultivation, they chose to kowtow. Luo Feng looked at them. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi watched without intervening. Only Luo Feng could decide the fate of these 15 God Emperors. Since you came to plunder me, you must pay the price. Luo Feng said without mercy. Most of these 15 were from the source world, so he could not, or would not, annihilate them outright. Each of you will compensate 500 billion Hunyuan crystals. Collectively, that's 7.5 trillion Hunyuan crystals. That's roughly the value of the low-level origin life corpses I sold. Pay 7.5 trillion, and I'll let you go, Luo Feng continued. If you don't, I promise none of you will ever be able to establish yourselves in the dark sacred world. His demand and the threat immediately deepened the karma between them. Luo Feng could use his biomimetic extinction eye to track the locations of each of their clones at any time. 7.5 trillion Hunyuan crystals. The 15 were stunned. Do each of us pay 500 billion, or is it 7.5 trillion total? Secret Ruin asked. It's collective, Luo Feng said. Not one credit less. If even one portion is missing, the rest of you will be implicated. Panic rippled through them. Some, like Secret Ruin himself, ranked among the top 3 in formation mastery, could produce 500 billion easily. Others had already spent most of their resources and could not. I know it won't be easy to gather 7.5 trillion, Luo Feng said. I'll give you 1,000 epochs. If you don't hand it to me within that time, I'll send my clone to destroy every one of your clones across the dark sacred world. That prospect terrified them. Being targeted by an invincible being could mean scrutiny by a high-level origin life, or worse, a world-level Hunyuan life, once he broke out of the cage. We'll gather the compensation within 1,000 epochs, Secret Ruin said with forced respect, and the others, with no better options, echoed the promise. Regret washed over them. Instead of gaining anything from the ambush, they now owed 7.5 trillion Hunyuan crystals. Just then, a black battleship streaked in. The Tianlang 8 friends aboard scanned ahead. We made it, one of them cried. Bo Shu and the others are still there. Their clones are alive, should still be holding on. They pushed the battleship to full speed, but as they neared the collapsing space-time hundreds of millions of kilometers ahead, they slowed, stunned. The sight of the space-time twisting into a vortex rattled them. Everyone knew how stable dark sacred world space-time normally was. Only peak-level beings could achieve short-range teleportation. To cause such widespread collapse required terrifying power. Tianlang 8 friends? A voice suddenly sounded in their ears. The collapsing space-time broadened and instantly engulfed their black battleship, rendering it uncontrollable as it was swept rapidly toward the center of the vortex. We can't stabilize the battleship. The space-time collapse is too violent. There's no escape. The 8 friends panicked. Then they saw the center, a man in black hair and black robes, standing at the absolute core. He was the locus of the surrounding collapse, exuding an oppressive force that made them tremble. The nearer one came to him, the more extreme the collapse. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi stood respectfully to the side. Secret Ruin and the other 15 were kneeling before the black-robed man. The Tianlang 8 friends were shaken. For peak-level beings to kneel, when even the loss of a few clones rarely prompted such submission, made the scene almost incomprehensible. 15 peak-ranked God Emperors all prostrating themselves. The 8 friends immediately sized up the man. Such a vast collapse of space-time caused by Luo Feng God Emperor? This surpasses peak level. He is invincible, they judged. First it was Secret Ruin and his 15, Luo Feng said, looking at them. Now the Tianlang 8 friends. Are you here to ambush me too? The 8 friends were taken aback. One of the kneeling God Emperors spoke up hastily. The Tianlang 8 friends are fierce by nature. They probably intended to ambush Luo Feng God Emperor. They left Chengfeng City at nearly the same time we did. We just arrived a bit sooner, another added. Luo Feng listened and nodded. Also here to ambush. No, we're not. The Tianlang 8 friends blurted out, scrambling to explain. We only came to watch, to see the great battle unfold. Secret Ruin's vessel is much faster than ours. We couldn't compete, so we had no intention of ambushing them. We were even thinking of helping Luo Feng God Emperor fight Secret Ruin and his group. That would temper us and aid our cultivation. We follow Senior Tianlang Qi. We're not short on resources, so we don't need to plunder. Although a few of the 8 friends had been somewhat led astray, their temperament was still bold. Their actions could be reckless. Seeing the current scene, each of them kept far more restrained now, showing no arrogance. That makes some sense, Luo Feng said, nodding slightly. They're greedy and fierce, prone to rash moves, Bo Shu observed. But their ship is slower. They were delayed, so it's plausible they would have turned on Secret Ruin and his group. You're right, Brother Bo Shu. We were planning to assist Luo Feng God Emperor against Secret Ruin, the Tianlang 8 friends admitted, visibly nervous. Far away in Hunyuan City, inside the oldest and largest large Hunyuan Hall, the first city established in the dark sacred world, the hall stretched vast, larger even than Yulan City and filled with countless chambers. A silver-haired, silver-browed man looked toward Luo Feng's location with interest. With the enhancement from a portable secret treasure and his massive physical power unleashed, he can make such a large area of space-time collapse. A woman in a fiery red robe peered into the distance as well. This strength far surpasses peak level. He must be invincible. His physical body is even larger than a superlimit vast hoof, she added. He hasn't broken out of the cage yet, and his physical body is already at this degree, truly rare. Since it's confirmed he's invincible, report to the Lord, the silver-haired man said. I agree. Report to the Lord, the woman replied. Chapter 351. 2 high-level Hunyuan beings. Deep within a palace of the large Hunyuan Hall, the silver-haired, silver-browed man and the woman in fiery red robes stood together and waited respectfully. An invisible fluctuation descended and formed an elder, none other than Senior Yuan, whom Luo Feng had met before. Lord, the two bowed with utmost deference. Though they themselves were high-level origin lives who had escaped the cage, that very escape made them all the more aware of the vast gulf between them and Senior Yuan. Hongge, Yi Feia, Senior Yuan said with a pleasant smile, has an invincible level existence finally appeared in the dark sacred world? He's Luo Feng, from the source world called Origin Continent, the silver-haired man replied. He's only been in the dark sacred world for one epoch. The woman in red added, his spiritual will hasn't yet broken free from the cage, and he hasn't converted to the Hunyuan bloodline system, but his strength is already at the invincible level. Senior Yuan's consciousness probed into the dark sacred world. Nothing that occurred there could hide from him. He already knew everything about what had transpired with Luo Feng. Luo Feng? Senior Yuan murmured, observing from afar. At that moment, Luo Feng was causing vast stretches of space to collapse. Secret Ruin God Emperor and the others were kneeling. The Tianlang 8 friends were in a state of panic, and Bo Shu and the others stood at his side. A young fellow from the Origin Continent, Senior Yuan reflected. He tracked every ultimate realm cultivator born in a source world within his domain. Another one from a source world. He shook his head. Although the myriad worlds we created vastly outnumber source worlds, the origin of those myriad worlds is still flawed compared to true source worlds. Beings raised there generally have poorer cultivation potential. The myriad worlds produced many cultivators and even a number of god emperors, but the stronger, more prominent lineages tended to come from source worlds. Those who could ultimately become Hunyuan lords were almost always from source worlds. Lord, shall we bring this Luo Feng in? The silver-haired man asked. No rush. Senior Yuan's gaze remained on Luo Feng. He's only one step away from the primal chaos life-death Tao and is still perfecting it. Do not disturb him now. Once he has perfected the primal chaos life-death Tao, I will bring him in. But he is already at the invincible level, the silver-haired man protested. Invincible level cultivators in the dark sacred world are always brought in. If we don't bring Luo Feng in, it could cause confusion among many cultivators there. Let them be confused, Senior Yuan said with a faint smile. The ones I truly want are cultivators who are on the verge of breaking out of the cage. A spiritual will that has broken out of the cage, a successful refinement of a world-level Hunyuan bloodline, or a primal chaos fusion Tao cultivator. If any of those 3 conditions are met, I will bring them in. Luo Feng does not meet any of them right now. We understand, Yi Feia said. A spiritual will that can emerge from the cage can resist higher spiritual pollution and has the potential to fully refine a high-level Hunyuan bloodline and become a high-level origin life. Succeeding at refining a world-level Hunyuan bloodline also makes it much easier to become a high-level origin life, the silver-haired man added. But this Luo Feng, his path of creation and destruction hasn't yet reached the primal chaos level, so how does he already possess such strength? Senior Yuan smiled. Although both are fusion Daos, their manifestations differ. Luo Feng's path of creation and destruction pursues extremes. Extremes make the Dao difficult, but they also create exceptional strength. Extreme? Gei and Yifei exchanged glances. Fusion Dao should emphasize balance. If one goes to extremes, the difficulty rises sharply. Senior Yuan's curiosity deepened. I'm very interested to see how far Luo Feng will go. Senior Yuan generally only took a passing interest in Ultimate Realm cultivators from source worlds. Ordinary invincible level cultivators didn't merit his full attention. But Primal Chaos Fusion Dao cultivators were another matter. He watched them with keen anticipation. You two must keep constant watch on Luo Feng, he instructed. Once he reaches the Primal Chaos level, inform me immediately. Yes, Lord, they replied respectfully. Senior Yuan then vanished. By that time, the collapsed space and world had settled. We will collect the compensation within 1 epoch, Secret Ruin God Emperor and the other 15 said with sincerity. Faced with an invincible being like Luo Feng, they had no choice but to placate him and dispel his hostility. Luo Feng nodded. Let's go. He immediately took Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi aboard the ship. Farewell, God Emperor Luo Feng, the Tianlang 8 friends said with lingering fear and deep respect. Fortunately, Luo Feng did not vent his anger on them. A rift tore open the fabric of heavens and earth, and the ship passed through it, vanishing toward the ends of the world. Long-range spatial travel? Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi were astonished. They could feel the ship passing through multiple spatial rifts, each leap spanning incomprehensible distances. This was clearly long-range spatial transit. Luo Feng glanced at them. He had not rushed earlier, partly because he was intrigued by Secret Ruin God Emperor and his party. After all, defeating their combined force of 15 had demonstrated that he had reached the invincible level. From this battle, their combined force of 15 was only mediocre, Luo Feng thought. I should, without doubt, count as an invincible level force in the dark sacred world. Invincible, and invincibles are usually brought in, he wondered. Why hasn't anyone brought me in? He had delayed in part to test his own strength and in part to display it, hoping that such a display might prompt someone to bring him into the hall. Brother Luo Feng, Bo Shu said perceptively, guessing his intent, you have laid bare your invincible strength. I believe it won't be long before Senior Yuan and the others come to bring you in. Bo Shu added, Senior Yuan and the others are busy. Some delay is possible. A delay of a few thousand epochs might even be normal. Luo Feng nodded. First, let's go to the large Hunyuan Hall. He no longer held back. Steering the ship, he used the spatial rifts to speed toward Hunyuan City. In Chengfeng City, several pinnacle existences had even dispatched avatars to observe the great battle. Secret Ruin God Emperor and the others have returned, and the Tianlang 8 friends have too, they detected. By causal induction, they confirmed that Secret Ruin God Emperor's party, the fastest of the three, and the Tianlang 8 friends had all come back. It seems the plundering has ended, some guessed. I can sense Bo Shu and the others are alive and heading straight for Hunyuan City, another reported. Presumably, Luo Feng's group couldn't resist and surrendered, offering tens of trillions of Hunyuan crystals, some speculated. That's why Secret Ruin God Emperor and the others let them go. These pinnacle cultivators made conjectures based on the outcome. All three parties were alive. The only reasonable explanation was that Luo Feng's party had complied and offered treasure to avoid slaughter. What happened? Fengchao City Lord was puzzled. Bo Shu is meticulous, and Luo Feng is unfathomable. How could they so easily yield tens of trillions of Hunyuan crystals, yet none of the three parties died? He sent a message to Secret Ruin God Emperor, bluntly asking, I heard you plundered tens of trillions of Hunyuan crystals from God Emperor Luo Feng? In Chengfeng City, Fengchao City Lord ranked first in status. Secret Ruin God Emperor ranked second. Secret Ruin God Emperor, en route back, quickly denied it. No, God Emperor Luo Feng's strength is invincible across the dark sacred world. How could we possibly plunder tens of trillions of Hunyuan crystals from him? What? Fengchao City Lord was stunned. You said he is invincible across the dark sacred world? Yes, invincible, Secret Ruin God Emperor confirmed. God Emperor Luo Feng is an invincible level existence. Fengchao City Lord reeled. An invincible existence had once been right in his city for an epoch, and he had traded with that being several times, profiting from those dealings. I profited from an invincible existence? He felt a sharp pang of regret. A huge opportunity had been right in front of him, and he'd missed it. He's only been in the dark sacred world for an epoch, hasn't even been to the large Hunyuan Hall, and yet he's at the invincible level. What terrifying potential is this? He ground his teeth. He immediately dispatched a main avatar to rush to the large Hunyuan Hall. He also wanted to tell his senior brother, Dragon Nine Dao Lord, who often resided in the hall. Hunyuan City, the first city in the dark sacred world. Whoosh! From a hazy spatial rift, the ship appeared and flowed into view outside the city. We're here. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi stared at Hunyuan City, amazed at how fast they had arrived. Luo Feng's eyes fixed on the large Hunyuan Hall within the city. Inside the hall, the two high-level Origin Lives were also watching Luo Feng's arrival. He's arrived, Gaian Yifeya observed. As the Lord said, Luo Feng is only one step away from the primal Chaos Life-Death Tao and has not hit a bottleneck. He keeps perfecting it, Ji sighed. With his cultivation speed and potential, the final obstacles won't hold him for long. Yes, it won't be long before he surpasses us, Yifeya admitted with a touch of envy. There were 3 routes to the invincible level. The first 2 involved refining the Hunyuan bloodline to eventually become a high-level Origin Life. The third route was different. Primal Chaos Fusion Dao cultivators, under the guidance of the Lord and others, often first become world-level Hunyuan lives, and then by mastering their home source world, can become lords of that source world, Gay said, envy in his voice. World-level Hunyuan lives are extremely rare even among the entire cultivator camp. In terms of status and strength, they rank far above the 2 of us. Chapter 352, 12 billion times heavier. Hunyuan City was vast and imposing, and a spaceship hovered above it. Hunyuan City is truly extraordinary, Luo Feng murmured, watching the city from inside. Having ruled Yulan City and lived in Chengfeng City for over 1,000 eras, he immediately noticed the difference. Hunyuan City felt heavier, denser, far more formidable than any other city. Beside him, God Emperor Bai Yin said, "This city was founded by Senior Yuan and his peers. It stores countless treasures, including 7 world-level Hunyuan life forms. Hunyuan City is effectively indestructible. Even many lower-level Hunyuan beings could not breach it." Luo Feng nodded. "It's incredibly safe here, but living permanently in Hunyuan City isn't easy." Bo Shu chuckled. "There are no living expenses, but you must own a dwelling. Property here is the most expensive in the entire dark sacred world. Of course, for peak existences, buying is simple enough." Luo Feng could sense that the 2 nations' forefathers from the Origin continent lived in Hunyuan City. That meant the 2 nations' forefathers from the Source World were fairly wealthy. The dwellings in the large Hunyuan Hall are the most expensive. They cannot be rented, only bought, the red-robed youth Qi Zheng remarked. In the distance, the large Hunyuan Hall loomed like an octagonal city of enormous scale. Luo Feng's main reason for coming to the dark sacred world was this hall. As soon as Luo Feng and the others entered the large Hunyuan Hall, an invisible wave washed over them. "Cultivator Luo Feng, how may we serve you?" a gentle voice asked, transmitting a list of services the hall provided. "I want to buy a cultivation dwelling inside the large Hunyuan Hall," Luo Feng replied. "1 cultivation dwelling. Exchange price, 1 million battle merits. Do you confirm?" The voice asked. "Confirm." Luo Feng's first priority had been to secure a dwelling. In other cities, a place like Yulan City had traded for only 2 million battle merits, so a single dwelling in the large Hunyuan Hall being this expensive meant only the very top tier would normally buy them. "Cultivator Luo Feng, you have exchanged for dwelling Yiju. From this moment, the heaven and earth space-time of dwelling Yiju is entirely under your control," the voice informed him. Luo Feng felt a separate heaven and earth space connect to him. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi looked toward him. "We didn't buy a dwelling in the large Hunyuan Hall," Bo Shu said. "We live long-term in Chengfeng City. Inside Hunyuan City, we only bought ordinary places. We won't bother you here," God Emperor Bai Yin added. Brother Luo Feng, do you want us to continue acquiring creation and destruction type secret treasures? Qi asked. Yes, Luo Feng replied. Choose the best 5. What Luo Feng needed now were creation and destruction secret treasures to raise his path of fusion toward the semi-primordial origin level. He had plenty of resources. Secret Ruin God Emperor and others would soon send another 750 billion Hunyuan crystals, so he wasn't stingy. We understand. Brother Luo Feng, if you need us, send word at any time. Bo Shi and Bai Yin departed. Luo Feng watched them go, then followed his senses to dwelling Yiju. Inside the large Hunyuan hall, the corridors felt like a space-time labyrinth. Guided by his sense, Luo Feng encountered no obstacles and soon found the heaven and earth space of his dwelling. He realized why the price was so high. Each dwelling was a complete, independent heaven and earth with its own origin power and rules. As the owner, he became its master, able to convert the dwelling's origin power into his own strength. The origin power could nurture body and soul, amplifying thought speed and supporting cultivation more effectively than nearly anything else. This is a treasure land for cultivation, Luo Feng thought. He immediately began to absorb the origin energy. No matter how much he drew, the dwelling's reserve didn't noticeably drop. His conversion speed pushed his spiritual consciousness to its limits. 2 million times, 3 million times, 10 million, 50 million, 300 million. Luo Feng sat cross-legged as his energy reserve swelled and his body bloomed in power. In a very short span, he reached a 12 billion times reserve. He was astonished. It had taken him 3 days to reach a mere million times reserve from the world origin pearl. Yet here, a 12 billion times reserve was established almost instantly and without disturbance. But with that power came weight. A 12 billion times perfect divine body reserve was a tremendous burden. Luo Feng stood and took a step. Every footfall was crushingly heavy. If such a body existed outside the hall, it could tear apart a super-large heaven and earth space-time. His current spiritual consciousness system could perfectly control up to an 8 million times reserve. Beyond that, his strength could not increase. The practical control limit was 300 million times, and past that, his power would actually decline. Perfect control and extreme control were very different. Exceeding his extreme control limit brought no benefits and even brought drawbacks. Every step outside felt like he was lugging mountains. Luo Feng knew his spiritual system had many flaws. What he needed now was the ability to perfectly control 12 billion times. He contacted the large Hunyuan hall from within his dwelling. Cultivator Luo Feng, how may we assist? The gentle voice asked. I noticed there are 65 life-type high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and 83 destruction-type high-level Hunyuan bloodlines in the hall, Luo Feng said. How many of them are considered enormously massive for their type? Life-type high-level Hunyuan life forms generally have larger bodies. Destruction-type typically have smaller ones, the voice replied. 9 life-type and 1 destruction-type can be considered extremely large for their levels. Detailed information will be transmitted. Luo Feng reviewed the information and decided, I'll buy them all, paid with Hunyuan crystals. For each high-level Hunyuan bloodline, I'll need 12 corresponding body materials. The 148 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and their materials total 1.0059 trillion Hunyuan crystals, the voice answered. The bloodlines and materials were delivered to Luo Feng's dwelling. Luo Feng knew they had to be brought back. These bloodline bodies and materials had to be used together with the Wisdom Book and the Eye of Creation and Destruction to have full effect. He split off a clone. The clone had a full 8 million times reserve and quietly left the hall, carrying the treasures. It exited Hunyuan City and flew straight to the Transmission Holy Mountain. With ample resources in the large Hunyuan Hall, Luo Feng planned a lengthy, closed-door period of cultivation. His last secluded cultivation had lasted only 1,000 eras because his energy reserve was too low. This time, with plentiful reserves and auxiliary treasures available, he could settle in for a long stretch. Inside the hall, 2 high-level origin life forms observed Luo Feng. The hall easily provided the energy he absorbed. They had both cultivated here, long-term, and could draw energy even faster. His physical body, It's already a tenth of mine before he even breaks out of the cage, the woman in the fiery red robe said, astonished. Once he breaks out, it'll be a qualitative change. He might leap ahead by more than 100 million times. If he becomes high-level origin, that physique alone would be at the peak for that rank. How could that be? The silver-haired, silver-browed man asked, skeptical. He cultivates the path of fusion. How could he refine a high-level Hunyuan bloodline? If he tried, the Hunyuan Lord and the others probably wouldn't agree. The woman's expression was complicated. She had fought long and hard and by chance awakened an ultimate bloodline to become high-level origin life. Luo Feng seemed to look down on such ranks. He will choose the world-level Hunyuan bloodline first, the silver-haired man continued. With his comprehension and the guidance of the Hunyuan Lord and peers, if he masters more than 70% of a world-level Hunyuan bloodline, he can refine it and become a world-level Hunyuan life. After that, his essence of life transforms. His thought speed could be hundreds of millions of times faster than before leaving the cage. Only then, by comprehending the Great Tao, could he hope to become a Hunyuan Lord. 6 of the 7 lords in our cultivator camp first became world level, then advanced to Hunyuan Lord, the man said. Only one ever leapt directly to Hunyuan Lord after breaking out of the cage. Becoming world level first is the most mature path. Cultivators who open the path of fusion have the highest ceiling and usually follow that route, he added. How many have become Hunyuan Lord in total? The woman asked softly. The title Hunyuan Lord represented the apex of the infinite mixed origin space. The silver-haired man sighed with envy and admiration. He added, he'll most likely become world level first. Refining his source world would then make him the lord of his source world. High-level origin life, world-level Hunyuan life, and Hunyuan Lord, 3 vast tiers, each an almost unbridgeable gulf. That's why so many cultivators fell by the wayside at each leap. To go directly from half-step Hunyuan realm to Hunyuan Lord was almost unimaginable. Only one person in the entire infinite mixed origin space had ever achieved it. Chapter 3 and 53, Longju Daojun, Dragon 9 Dao Lord. In another cave dwelling of the great Hunyuan Hall, birds sang and flowers bloomed. On a boundless stretch of grass, a middle-aged man in a green robe painted with meticulous care. His brush moved through the void, and whatever he painted altered the surrounding environment. He sighed and set the brush down. Alas, the 5th Grand Tao, even a single branch is so difficult to grasp, he muttered. I'm only missing this one Grand Tao. The green-robed man gently shook his head. He was Dragon 9 Tao Lord, an existence who had mastered 3.5 primordial origin Taos and had not refined any Hunyuan bloodline. Before Luo Feng's rise, he had been the strongest cultivator in the dark sacred world. The Lord favors me and has sacrificed so much, yet I have disappointed him, Dragon 9 Tao Lord reflected. If I can get all 5 Taos to God, Emperor, Second Realm, and command more than half of the Source World's Grand Taos, I can control the Source World and become its master. There was a quiet hunger in his eyes. He had followed this path for far too long, over 30 Source World cycles. His wind, fire, and lightning Taos had reached primordial origin level. There was no lightning Grand Tao in his home Source World. He had acquired that Tao through other opportunities after leaving his homeland. The Lord valued me and sent me across countless Source Worlds, finally placing me in the Dragon Blood Source World, Dragon 9 Tao Lord continued. 9 Grand Taos there, wind, fire, lightning. He even let me be reborn into that world. My 4th Tao, water, I advanced to God Emperor Second Realm in a single cycle. He smiled faintly, then his expression soured. But for the 5th Tao, I can't even comprehend a single Grand Tao branch. He was in agony. Every cultivator had strengths and weaknesses. It was especially hard to comprehend a Grand Tao branch in unfamiliar territory. Luo Feng, for example, focused solely on creation and destruction. Dragon 9 Tao Lord had tried every method. The Lord who favored him had offered countless solutions. Still, he lacked the final spark. The Lord said refining a Hunyuan bloodline is the last resort. Too many consequences, Dragon 9 Tao Lord told himself. Controlling the Source World's origin and becoming a world-level Hunyuan life is the true pathway. Without the repercussions of a bloodline, I'll persist. Resolve hardened within him. I've only experienced 30 Source World cycles. What's that compared to eternity? He had been tempted by other routes, but remained steadfast. Then a message arrived. My junior brother is here, he murmured. He opened his cave-dwelling door, and Feng Chao's city lord entered. Senior brother, Feng Chao said, clearly agitated. Dragon Nine Dao Lord smiled. You seem excited. This isn't like you, Feng Chao. We have an invincible existence in the dark sacred world. Luo Feng, Feng Chao blurted. Dragon Nine Dao Lord's interest peaked. Oh. Invincible beings emerge in our world from time to time. It's not unheard of, he said. But usually, once they appear, they are brought in. He hasn't been brought in, Feng Chao said. He's in the Great Hunyuan Hall and even bought a cultivation cave. Not brought in? Dragon Nine Dao Lord was puzzled. Normally, the two high-level origin life guarding the dark sacred world, Gei and Yi Feia, would take any invincible existence under their supervision and inform the Lord, unless explicitly ordered not to. Dragon Nine Dao Lord had himself once been an invincible existence and knew the rules intimately. Unless the Lord commanded otherwise, Jie and Yi Feia wouldn't leave an invincible existence free. Are you sure he's truly invincible? Dragon Nine Dao Lord asked. Confirmed. Feng Chao nodded. Secret Ruin God Emperor and his 15 allies couldn't withstand a single move from God Emperor Luo Feng. Then he must be invincible, Dragon Nine Dao Lord said, eyes brightening. If he's invincible and still not taken in, there must be a reason. He was intrigued. He himself had once been specially tutored by Starlight Lord as a Source World Master seed, and therefore had different treatment. Why had Luo Feng not been taken? I'd like to visit this God Emperor Luo Feng. Can you arrange it? Feng Chao looked apologetic. When I left Chengfeng City, I contacted Bo Shu and the others. They say Luo Feng went into seclusion after buying a cave in the Great Hunyuan Hall. He's not accepting anyone. He'll only grant an audience when he emerges. Then tell his followers that I, Dragon 9, wish to visit. Inform me the moment he leaves seclusion, Dragon 9 requested with a smile. All right. Feng Chao hurried to send the message. I'm waiting too. I hope he'll give me some pointers. Perhaps his guidance would help you, Dragon 9 Dao Lord replied, pride warring with genuine curiosity. He rarely paid much heed to invincible beings being immediately taken away, but one who wasn't taken? That was worth investigating. In the wilds of the dark sacred world, above a vast black lake, a humanoid figure fought multiple superlimit low-level Hunyuan lives. Laughing wildly, he cut them down in close quarters, swaggering as he collected their corpses. Filthy and disheveled, his eyes bright with bloodlust, he wore a strange, sinister smile. The aura he emitted warped heaven and earth. He was God Emperor Ji, one of the two strongest cultivators on the surface of the dark sacred world. The world-level Hunyuan bloodline's will is too strong. If I can't suppress it, I have to come out and kill, GK muttered. Obtaining a world-level Hunyuan bloodline had cost him enormous battle merits and a brutal test in the Great Hunyuan Hall to ensure the bloodline wouldn't drive him mad. He had passed, and his mind remained clear. But the bloodline will still tormented him, pushing him toward bouts of bloodthirsty frenzy. To avoid harming innocents, GK always fled to the wilderness to hunt low-level Hunyuan life. By the current reckoning, he had slain more low-level Hunyuan life than anyone else in the dark sacred world. Then a message reached him. An invincible existence has been born in the dark sacred world and is cultivating in a cave in the Great Hunyuan Hall? GK's excitement flared. Previously, invincible existences were immediately taken in. This Luo Feng wasn't, and he's still cultivating here. Delighted at the prospect of a fight and eager to test himself, GK rushed to Hunyuan City. News spread quickly. An invincible existence, God Emperor Luo Feng, had appeared and remained in the Great Hunyuan Hall. Many cultivators flocked to Hunyuan City, hoping to see or be taught by him. Historically, invincible beings were hard to meet precisely because they were taken away immediately. This case was different. In a quiet cave dwelling, Ancestor Yan Feng and Ancestor Lei Ting heard the news. It's Luo Feng, Lei Ting announced, excited. They say he's only been in the dark sacred world 1,000 eras, and his first move already proved invincible strength. Di Qing also reported that Luo Feng single-handedly overpowered 4 super-limit opponents in Yulan City. Yan Feng added, in the blink of an eye, invincibility? They watched Luo Feng's rapid rise with a mix of awe and envy. If he becomes invincible, escaping the cage won't be far off, Yan Feng said. Lei Ting regretted they hadn't given Luo Feng more support earlier. We thought he might come to the dark sacred world, but never expected him to be this strong so fast. Da Qing's friendship with Luo Feng surpassed theirs. Many now hoped to see Luo Feng. Powerful cultivators even traveled from other cities to Hunyuan City, but Luo Feng remained in seclusion, seeing no one. Let Morosa pass a message. We request an audience when he emerges, Yan Feng decided. Until then, don't disturb him. Inside his great Hunyuan Hall cave dwelling, Luo Feng continued his seclusion. The cave's primordial origin power constantly nourished and restored his soul, making the use of auxiliary rare treasures, things like 100 tribulation heart marrow, far less taxing. While he consumed those treasures, Luo Feng's clone on the origin continent used the Eye of Creation and Destruction and the Wisdom Book to research every collected low-level Hunyuan bloodline. That research alone took 1,500 eras. He always began by studying corpse materials to deduce the mysteries within a low-level Hunyuan life, then observed the bloodline to verify his conclusions. With his thought processing running at over 500 times the normal speed during much of that time, his understanding of creation and destruction deepened profoundly. After that, Luo Feng began researching the mental consciousness systems found within high-level Hunyuan bloodlines. His newly acquired life-type and destruction-type high-level bloodlines revealed that 15 species possessed such systems. This discovery greatly enriched his knowledge of mental systems and accelerated his mastery of them. Unseen by others, Luo Feng had spent 4,300 eras in seclusion. Many waited in Hunyuan City for him to emerge, but none dared disturb him. Almost there, Luo Feng, sitting cross-legged within the cave world, suddenly opened his eyes. His cumulative studies in creation and destruction and the mental consciousness systems had finally pushed the path of creation and destruction to its last stage. Just one final step, he realized. Further seclusion alone won't do it. I need a spiritual spark to perfect the mental consciousness system. Only then will the path of creation and destruction reach God-Emperor perfection. The primal chaos life-death Tao was clear in his mind. Only a sliver of spiritual inspiration remained. Chapter 354, Summons. Luo Feng stepped out of the great Hunyuan Hall at a measured pace and wandered through Hunyuan City. He watched the cave dwellings of countless civilizations and the cultivators of myriad appearances. Most of them took humanoid form, but many still bore racial features, and some remained in their original, unaltered shapes. Cultivators from innumerable source worlds streamed together here. Every gesture carried the flavor of a different civilization. Yet they all shared one thing in common. They were life trapped inside the cage. Luo Feng already had the primal chaos life-death Tao taking shape in his mind. He only lacked a sliver of spiritual enlightenment. He had also studied a huge number of low-level Hunyuan bloodlines and several high-level ones, giving him deep insight into these skyborn mixed-source lives. The difference between life inside the cage and life outside it was, he thought, precisely what people on his homeworld had once called the difference between low and higher dimensions. Inside the cage, the primal chaos life-death Tao could be complete. There was no more breakthrough to be made. Stepping out of the cage, however, was like entering a higher dimension, an opportunity to expand the Tao of creation and destruction many, many times over. The primal chaos Tao was like a highly detailed drawing, intricate but limited by pixels. The Hunyuan Tao was a living, breathing body in reality. The gap between them was immense. If the profundity of the primal chaos Tao was a single unit, the Hunyuan Tao would be at least 1,000,000, perhaps 1,000,000,000 times greater. He had endured countless trials to cultivate the primal chaos life-death Tao and still lacked that final flash of spiritual inspiration. How could he possibly ascend to heaven in one step, instantly comprehend a Hunyuan Tao, and break all laws? That legend belonged to myth. Luo Feng lifted his gaze to the sky. The biomimetic extinction eye on his brow had deepened further. It could now peer through the membrane of the dark sacred world and glimpse a sliver of the true, infinite mixed origin space. The primal chaos life-death Tao was within reach. He could feel it edging closer to completion. The next step, however, remained unknown. One thing was certain, he would take it one step at a time. He walked to the cave dwellings of Bo Xiu, Bai Yin, and Qi. The three sensed his arrival through karmic links and came out to greet him at once. Congratulations, brother Luo Feng, Bo Xiu smiled. After 4,300 epochs of seclusion, you finally emerge. Luo Feng returned the smile. During those 4,300 epochs, only on rare occasions, when the secret ruin god emperor and others sent lavish compensation, did his clone leave to accept it. Otherwise, he had been wholly devoted to cultivation. They led him inside and sat together. Brother Luo Feng, Qi said, many cultivators have come to Hunyuan City during your seclusion, hoping to meet you and gain some guidance. Bo Xiu sighed. After reaching the primal chaos realm, many feel the path ahead is blocked. Too many hope to glean insight from an invincible like you. Luo Feng nodded. He saw the next path in broad strokes, yet he knew it would be infinitely harder than the primal chaos Dao. Dragon 9 Dao Lord and GK God Emperor both want to meet you, Bai Yin added. Luo Feng's interest stirred. Those two were deep cultivators. They might spark some inspiration. By the way, he asked, about the creation and destruction secret treasures I requested you gather? Bo Xiu, Bai Yin, and Chai exchanged looks. We announced that brother Luo Feng sought such treasures, Bo Xiu explained. With your reputation, many cultivators offered to sell. We had trouble picking the best 5, so we waited for you to come out of seclusion to choose personally. Good, Luo Feng said. Pre-select the top 20 and invite them over. I'll pick what I need. Bo Xiu, as a true witch lineage cultivator, had a keen eye. Luo Feng trusted his selection. Word spread fast. Luo Feng God Emperor left his cave dwelling. He went to Bo Xiu God Emperor's cave. Cultivators across Hunyuan City could sense his location by karma. Soon, crowds converged on Bo Xiu's dwelling. Dragon 9 Dao Lord and GK God Emperor hurried there as well. Over 300 peak-level existences arrived, along with many primal chaos Dao comprehension cultivators and bloodline cultivators, tens of thousands in all, and still more kept coming. Bo Xiu, Bai Yin, and Qi sent out clones to receive them. There were simply too many visitors, and many were too powerful to be received personally. Luo Feng God Emperor has agreed to meet everyone today, Bo Xiu announced. The assembled cultivators waited patiently. They had been expecting this for 4,300 epochs. Inside the cave dwelling, Luo Feng summoned 20 cultivators in. Their strengths varied. The strongest were at the peak level, the weakest at God Emperor late-stage Dao comprehension. Take out your secret treasures, Luo Feng said. If I wish to buy anything, I'll offer a suitable price. You can decide whether to sell. Several cultivators immediately offered their treasures as gifts. They hoped to purchase karmic favor by giving freely. Luo Feng simply smiled and declined. No need. I'll pay a fair price. At his level, these creation and destruction artifacts were more about broadening his understanding than essential power. He would not accept freebies lightly. Bo Xiu urged them to display their items. Luo Feng glanced and instantly assessed their worth. He had immersed himself in the theory of creation and destruction for too long to be fooled. These 20 treasures were all refined by beings who had jumped out of the cage or were skyborn mixed-source artifacts. Their values varied. He selected 9 and offered prices, double the usual rate in the dark sacred world, as custom demanded. Even so, for Luo Feng, the Hunyuan crystal sums were trivial. Most of the sellers were happy. Selling at double price was far better than giving away the treasure for gratitude alone. 8 agreed to sell. 1, Chanfu God Emperor, hesitated. 50 billion Hunyuan crystal from Luo Feng God Emperor is generous, Bo Xiu said. Why hesitate? Chanfu's face was set. This treasure is a skyborn mixed-source artifact conceived within the corpse of a world-level Hunyuan life. It's worth 100 billion Hunyuan crystal. He was a primal chaos Dao comprehension cultivator. Outside of this artifact, his total accumulation over countless years barely reached a few tens of billions. He had decided, either gift it away or seize an opportunity to earn a fortune. Luo Feng glanced at the golden bone staff in Chanfu's hand. It fused the mysteries of creation and destruction and was far stronger than a simple palm world. A single strike could determine creation and destruction. Still, Luo Feng waved a hand. Then it's these 8. 8 storage bracelets shot out, carrying the promised Hunyuan crystal. The sellers accepted them with bright faces. Chanfu, watching, frowned. Luo Feng wouldn't buy it for an extra 50 billion? He had to be careful. Bo Shu began to see them out. Chanfu left clutching his staff, refusing to sell. Out in the garden, tens of thousands had gathered. News of the transaction spread quickly, and some mocked Chanfu for his greed. Luo Feng, God Emperor, is an invincible existence. Do you think he truly cares about your treasure? Chanfu felt uncomfortable at the murmurs. Suddenly, a hand clapped down on his shoulder. A terrifying force rippled through him. He turned and found himself facing a disheveled old man with bloodshot eyes and a crazed grin. GK God Emperor. GK God Emperor. Chanfu's heart thudded. GK was notorious for his eccentric, mad nature. Which treasure did you want to sell to Luo Feng? GK asked. It's this one, Chanfu said, and handed the golden bone staff over. He dared not resist when GK snatched it away without a trace of payment. I'm visiting Luo Feng, God Emperor, GK said, grinning, and I happen to be short on a gift. Chanfu had no reply. Bo Shu called from the entrance. Dragon 9 Dao Lord, GK God Emperor, Luo Feng God Emperor summons the two of you. They followed Bo Shu inside. Among the crowd, some higher-level existences whispered that Dragon 9 and GK had been summoned first because their cultivations were deeper. Others, like Yan Feng Ancestor and Lei Ting Ancestor, low-tier presences who had been friends of Luo Feng in earlier years, exchanged glances and felt that their bonds with him had been too shallow. They would wait and see if they would be called. Chapter 352, Bloodline Path. To actually run into GK God Emperor, what a madman. Chanfu God Emperor felt suffocated. When he'd faced Luo Feng had said trade was free. As the saying went, fortune favors the bold. If he couldn't get cause and effect by giving it away, he might as well have sold it for a high price. He'd lost that gamble, and then run to the eccentric GK God Emperor. GK acted without restraint, like a lunatic. Beyond massacres and other acts that drew public outrage, he did whatever he pleased. Chanfu knew full well that if he resisted even a little, GK might crush him. Killing inside the city was forbidden, but that rule wasn't imposed by Senior Yuan or others. Cultivators themselves set it. Whether in the 35 cities of the 9 Rivers Sacred World or the 5 cities of the Dark Sacred World, cultivators decided how to govern themselves. The highest-leveled beings occasionally broke that rule, and no one dared protest. A single word from Luo Feng had once forced Secret Ruin God Emperor and 15 others to pay 750 billion Hunyuan crystals in compensation. When GK moved, Chanfu didn't dare resist at all. I'm a joke, he thought. He couldn't sell it for a high price and got robbed by G God Emperor. Haha. Who told him to be so greedy? The surrounding cultivators laughed and mocked. He stood expressionless, mortified, but unwilling to miss Luo Feng's public Dao comprehension. Anyone who'd reached the half-primordial origin level wanted to break out of the cage. Greetings, Luo Feng God Emperor. Dragon 9 Dao Lord and GK God Emperor bowed. GK no longer looked mad. His hair and robes were neat and his aura calm. When he refined the world-level Hunyuan bloodline, he'd actually been conscious all along. Usually, he vented chaotic emotions and slaughtered lower-level Hunyuan lives. Venting helped him maintain balance. Please, take a seat, Luo Feng said politely. Both men were a cut above most peak beings. Both had extraordinary qualities. Luo Feng God Emperor, this is a creation and destruction type secret treasure I obtained by chance. Consider it a gift for our first meeting. GK flicked his hand and the golden bone staff flew out. Luo Feng recognized it at once. The secret treasure from before. Please don't mind me. Dark Sacred World cultivators naturally fight and plunder. GK smiled, his aura free of malice. Taking it from Chanfu is the cause and effect between us. With my status, merely taking his treasure is his honor. Luo Feng took the golden bone staff and laughed. GK's methods are very direct. The Skyborn mixed source lives are even more unrestrained and wild, GK sighed. If you choose to refine a bloodline, your temperament must match it. The path of the Hunyuan bloodline is not easy, Dragon 9 Dao Lord said. Having chosen it, I have no regrets. GK looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng, God Emperor, may we spar? I want to see just how powerful an invincible tier being is. Perhaps I can unearth more of the Hunyuan bloodline's potential. Combat can unearth a bloodline's potential? Luo Feng understood and smiled. All right, I'll spar with you. Dragon 9 Dao Lord, Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi watched with keen interest. These two were special. One cultivated a Hunyuan bloodline, specifically a world-level Hunyuan bloodline, and the other was already an invincible being. In the distance, Luo Feng and GK faced each other. Brother Luo Feng, go easy on your power. Don't destroy my cave abode, Bo Shu joked. The cave abode, where three of them often stayed, couldn't withstand an unrestrained fight. Don't worry. Luo Feng smiled and, with a casual motion, a limitless blood sea appeared and expanded to cover most of the garden, enveloping GK. The seawater swirled around him like layers of shell. No power leaked out. Dragon 9 Dao Lord watched, startled. How terrifying Luo Feng is. He felt pride. His spiritual will had already broken out of the cage, and he was an invincible being and a Source World Master Seed. He had expected some superiority when observing Luo Feng and GK. But the Scarlet Seawater's power, though restrained, was at least 100 times his own, he realized. Even if he suppressed Luo Feng's spiritual will, so Luo Feng could only use 2 or 3/10 of his strength, Luo Feng could still crush him easily. How can he be so strong? Under the cage, he's this powerful. Dragon 9 Dao Lord watched in awe. GK personally felt the terrifying power of the limitless blood sea. The gap was overwhelming. Despair rose in him. Yet the more hopeless the situation, the stronger GK's madness flared. He didn't hold back his bloodline will. Instead, he melded with it and unleashed himself. Boom! GK, unarmed, struck, causing repeated explosions inside the limitless blood sea. He flicked his right arm, and his arm became a colorful giant snake, swimming through the seawater with heaven and earth-shattering might. He stomped, and it became a giant heavenly pillar that suppressed all around. Each of his moves carried immense power. Luo Feng judged that GK could only manifest a fraction of the world-level Hunyuan bloodline's power, showing only a few of its traits. GK's excavation of the bloodline's potential was still too weak. If GK had been stronger, even a small portion of a world-level bloodline's potential could have let him break out of the cage and become a high-level origin life. Too weak. Or rather, I am too strong, Luo Feng thought. His massive body contained an energy reserve 1.2 billion times greater. Though he could only perfectly control 120 million times of it now, his strength was a level above when he'd fought Secret Ruin God Emperor and the others. Controlling a body with such an enormous reserve didn't lessen his explosive power. When he'd faced Secret Ruin God Emperor, he'd been a major level above peak. Now he felt another major level higher, though still within the cage. No matter how many lives existed inside the cage, they were ants compared to a high-level origin life. Boom! With a casual wave, Luo Feng suppressed GK. Despite GK's unrestrained fury, he couldn't shake the limitless blood sea. The gap was simply too wide. At last, GK returned to his normal form, and his aura receded. That was a good fight, GK said, smiling. But the gap between us is too great. I'm far from your match, Luo Feng God Emperor. Luo Feng thought and withdrew the limitless blood sea. Not a single flower or blade of grass in the garden was harmed. As expected of the invincible tier, Dragon 9 Dao Lord sighed. He realized there were 3 routes to the invincible level. First, having your spiritual will break out of the cage. Second, excavating a world-level Hunyuan bloodline to a certain level. Third, fusing the half-primordial origins Dao. Spiritual will breaking out of the cage was the most common and the weakest of the 3. Luo Feng doesn't seem to cultivate bloodlines. He cultivates fusion Dao, Dragon 9 Dao Lord speculated. But why hasn't he been drawn in yet? Luo Feng, Dragon 9 Dao Lord, GK, Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi sat together. GK asked directly, although I refined a world-level Hunyuan bloodline into my body, I can only excavate a small portion of its potential and can't break out of the cage. Do you have any methods, Luo Feng? Is it necessary to refine a Hunyuan bloodline into the body first and then excavate its potential? Luo Feng asked. Can't one study the bloodline's mysteries carefully, understand its essence, and then refine it? Bo Shu and the others listened closely. Breaking out of the cage was difficult, but if the bloodline path could do it, they wanted to know. GK nodded. Bloodline paths split into 2 main categories. The first is refining the bloodline into your body and then excavating its potential, what Skyborn Mixed Source lives do. The second is what Luo Feng mentioned, first comprehending the mysteries within the Hunyuan bloodline, studying its essence, and then refining it. That route can unleash the bloodline's extreme power. The second category is far more difficult, GK continued. Even when studying a high-level Hunyuan bloodline, you can use treasures from a large Hunyuan hall to see all its mysteries, but to truly understand it, that's almost impossible. It's very hard, Dragon 9 Dao Lord agreed. A high-level Hunyuan bloodline may contain mysteries of more than 10 types of Dao. How many do we truly grasp? Luo Feng nodded. Skyborn mixed source lives are born in the infinite mixed origin space, so their bloodlines contain multiple Daos in varying proportions. Take the scarlet scales of the Star Tower, for example. Life-type secret patterns might be 34.3%, destruction type 9.2%, and many other categories besides. Even though Luo Feng's accumulation in life and destruction was deep, he'd mainly explored around 43% of that bloodline. There were many paths he hadn't studied. My two favorite Daos, Limitless and Life, have only reached the half-primordial origin, GK said. I found a high-level Hunyuan bloodline that suited me, Life 50%, Limitless 30%, but many of those mysteries are the parts that let you break out of the cage. I can only understand a fraction. You must know, a Hunyuan bloodline must be comprehended to 70% to be thoroughly refined, GK said. How difficult is that? I can't even comprehend 70% of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline. My comprehension is far from enough, so for me, the path of excavating the bloodline's potential is the right one. Dragon 9 Dao Lord added, as far as I know, almost everyone who breaks out of the cage via bloodlines does so by excavating potential. Truly comprehending a bloodline's essence and using that to break out, 1 in 10,000 succeeds. Luo Feng considered this. He could absolutely comprehend low-level Hunyuan bloodline creation and destruction mysteries. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines were much harder, but he had already comprehended over 70% of 3 of them: Heavenly Fire Shadow, Nether Prison Disaster Beast, and Calamity Beast. Heavenly Fire Shadow was life-type about 50% and destruction about 30%. Any Skyborn Mixed Source Life's bloodline contains life-type secret patterns. For Heavenly Fire Shadow, because Luo Feng had nearly fully comprehended life and destruction, his understanding of the entire bloodline exceeded 70%. He could become a high-level origin life on that alone. Nether Prison Disaster Beast was life 40% and destruction 40%. Luo Feng's study of it also exceeded 70%. Calamity Beast, the shadow of the Calamity Beast he'd once seen on Origin Continent, was mainly creation and destruction. Destruction over 50% and life about 30%. His comprehension of that Hunyuan bloodline was also above 70%. If I wanted, I could become a high-level origin life at any time, Luo Feng thought. I could even integrate all 3 bloodlines and excavate their potential. He had the sense these 3 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines were each very strong for their kind. Integrating and excavating all 3 might push him to the peak of a high-level origin life, perhaps even beyond into world-level Hunyuan life. But the bloodline path has many hidden dangers, Luo Feng knew. He didn't fully understand them, but the consensus in the cultivation world was clear. Although the bloodline path's upper limit was higher, it bristled with hidden dangers. The Dao comprehension path remained the safest, most reliable route. Chapter 356, Summoning the Ancestors of the Two Nations. GK God Emperor. The red-robed youth Qizheng asked, we're planning to switch to the Hunyuan bloodline path. What's the difference between refining a world-level Hunyuan bloodline and a high-level Hunyuan bloodline into your body? In the dark sacred world, many cultivators refined high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, so there was plenty of experience to draw on. But with world-level Hunyuan bloodlines, GK God Emperor was currently the only example here. He, who usually showed little interest in such questions, spoke without hesitation. You should all know, GK said, the bloodline path has 2 major dangers. First is the influence of the bloodline will, and second is that bloodline comprehension can distort your cognition, a kind of memory pollution. Everyone listened closely. Luo Feng was also curious. He had little practical experience with the bloodline path. Most cultivators here acquire high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, GK continued, and some even integrate multiple bloodlines into their bodies. But every additional bloodline brings another bloodline will. On the bloodline path, it's best to specialize in one, GK said. That's why I exchanged for a world-level Hunyuan bloodline. Even if I become a high-level origin life later, I could keep focusing on this single bloodline and push it to a world-level Hunyuan. But a world-level bloodline carries a far stronger bloodline will, more severe memory pollution, and greater difficulty in tapping its potential. Maybe I chose wrongly, GK added wryly. Maybe a high-level Hunyuan would have suited me better. I overestimated myself. Is integrating multiple bloodlines always bad? Luo Feng asked. There are people who combine several. Dragon 9 Dao Lord answered, those with deep insight into bloodline mysteries can sometimes merge multiple bloodlines into a single, more powerful one, and thereby achieve world-level Hunyuan. Such cases are extremely rare, GK said, looking at Bo Xiu, Bai Yin, and Qi Zheng. You must thoroughly comprehend the bloodlines to merge them. If you're switching to the bloodline path, it's still best to specialize. Bo Xiu and the others nodded. Luo Feng God Emperor, GK turned to Luo Feng. I'm stuck trying to tap into my bloodline's potential. Can you offer some guidance? I know even less about bloodlines than you do, Luo Feng said with a smile. At that, Dragon 9 and GK exchanged glances. Luo Feng must be on the third of the invincible three paths, the path of fusion. The first two paths would have been far more concerned with bloodline information and would have collected any available details. Still, GK pressed, if you had to cultivate a Hunyuan bloodline, how would you tap into its potential? Dragon 9, Bo Xiu, Bai Yin, and Qi Zheng leaned in. The cultivation strategy of an invincible presence could be instructive. If it were me, Luo Feng said, first I'd find a suitable Hunyuan bloodline and study its secret pattern map in detail until I thoroughly understood it. Then I'd integrate it into my body and observe how the bloodline affected me. From the changes, I could deduce the purpose behind its secret patterns. Combining that with prior study, I'd deepen my understanding. Finally, I'd follow the most common method, obey the bloodline's instinct to tap its potential. I've tried comprehending it and failed, GK admitted. Luo Feng understood. GK could hardly comprehend a high-level Hunyuan bloodline. A world-level one would be utterly beyond him. I've heard that if the spiritual will can break free from the cage, it can to some extent suppress the bloodline will and allow deeper tapping into the bloodline's potential, Luo Feng suggested. But my spirit can't break free from the cage, GK said helplessly. Is there a good way to break it? For cultivators at our level, the spirit has already undergone many trials, Dragon 9 said. To strengthen spiritual will, there's only one path. Elevation of the Tao elevates the spirit. My Tao can't be elevated further, GK said, looking at Luo Feng. Luo Feng smiled and replied bluntly, do you know high-level origin lives come in different sizes? Why can some sustain such enormous bodies? It's because they possess a special spiritual consciousness system. Everyone stirred. A spiritual consciousness system? Those very large ones have a much more profound and efficient spiritual consciousness system than the usual consciousness network, Luo Feng explained. You can study high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, strip away the other mysterious interferences, and specifically research the spiritual consciousness systems. Study several types and accumulate experience. When spiritual consciousness expands, the spiritual will be easier to break through. Luo Feng could feel his own spiritual consciousness system rapidly strengthening, the intensity of his will subtly shifting. The sense of being on the verge of a breakthrough was growing stronger. That was why he had come out of seclusion, seeking spiritual inspiration. Spiritual consciousness system? GK and the others were puzzled. If we study high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and strip away other mysteries, how do we even tell which parts belong to the spiritual consciousness system and which are other interferences? Everything looks like a mess. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines are too difficult, Dragon 9 sighed. We can still classify and examine lower-level bloodlines, but high-level ones? Luo Feng shook his head. Low-level Hunyuan bloodlines don't have a powerful spiritual consciousness system. That dashed their hopes. There were no shortcuts. To understand a spiritual consciousness system, one would need to dissect high-level Hunyuan bloodlines completely. If they could do that, given time, they could find a high-level bloodline that suited them and become a high-level origin life. But the task was enormous. Our spiritual will is weak, our comprehension lacking, and our ability to tap bloodline potential insufficient, GK said. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi Zheng all understood. To break the cage with the aid of bloodlines, at least one of three conditions must be met: willpower, comprehension, or the ability to access bloodline potential. Only the last seemed remotely achievable. Luo Feng, God Emperor, Dragon 9 asked, pressing on, "Is there any way to comprehend a Dao you're not gifted in?" "To comprehend a Dao you're not good at," Luo Feng asked in surprise. "Then why spend all the effort on it?" He focused on what he was good at. On the material path, he had some talent, but life and death were his strongest, the areas where his efficiency was highest. "There are no shortcuts to Dao comprehension," Luo Feng said after thought. "Only accumulation of knowledge and experience. If you can't comprehend it, your accumulation isn't enough yet." Dragon 9 nodded with a sigh. Luo Feng then said with a smile, "Bo Shu, bring in two friends, Yan Feng God Emperor and Lei Ting God Emperor." Bo Shu understood immediately. He knew Luo Feng came from the origin continent and had heard of several God Emperors from there. In the front garden of the immortal cave, over 100,000 cultivators had gathered, crowded and waiting for the invincible presence, Luo Feng God Emperor, to expound on the Tao. Yan Feng and Lei Ting stood tucked away in a corner, considered among the weakest God Emperors in the dark sacred world, so they kept a low profile. When Bo Shu's voice called their names, the eyes of the entire assembly turned toward him. People murmured, "Were those the Yan Feng and Lei Ting who served under Luo Feng?" Yan Feng and Lei Ting, puzzled, watched Bo Shu approach. "Luo Feng, God Emperor, invites you inside," Bo Shu said with a smile. They felt the pressure of a crowd of more than 100,000 cultivators, most of whom were at least as powerful as they were. Under so many gazes, they had to hold themselves steady as Bo Shu led them into the inner garden. "Brother Luo Feng, they're here," Bo Shu announced. Yan Feng and Lei Ting looked up and saw a black-clothed, black-haired man in the central seat. Dragon 9 and GK sat below him. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, and Qi Zheng sat around the edges. The man looked over and called, "Yan Feng, forefather. Lei Ting, forefather. Long time no see." Both men felt a sudden, immense pressure in their chests. "Luo Feng, God Emperor, you can just call me Yan Feng," one said immediately. "My original name was Shuma. You can call me Shuma," said the other. Luo Feng laughed. "Only a few God Emperors came from my homeworld. Here in the dark sacred world, there are only 3 of us from that place. Me, Yan Feng, and Lei Ting. Strictly speaking, you two are my seniors." GK and Dragon 9 made a mental note of their names. News spread quickly through the crowd. 2 previously unremarkable cultivators were fellow countrymen of Luo Feng, God Emperor. Intelligence networks in the dark sacred world began to investigate them, and their names were soon on many tongues. Today, Yan Feng and Lei Ting, ordinary in strength but tied to the invincible Luo Feng, suddenly found themselves in the spotlight. Chapter 357, Break the Law with Force? As an invincible existence, Luo Feng was virtually unrivaled below the primordial origin, and with his Hunyuan bloodline, he could break out of the cage at any time. His thinking had naturally shifted. In the future, he would seek better ways to truly break out of the cage. He was willing to help the cultivators of the dark sacred world. He felt goodwill toward Yan Feng and Lei Ting, the 2 God Emperors from his home source world. "Sit," Luo Feng said, gesturing to a nearby bench. Yan Feng and Lei Ting bowed politely and took seats. Given the situation, their strength still felt a little lacking. "If you have cultivation troubles, feel free to speak out," Luo Feng said with a smile. "Even if I can't answer everything, the others here may be able to help." Yan Feng and Lei Ting indeed had many questions. Previously, their low status had kept them from asking the Great Power's advice. Lei Ting spoke up first. "I exchanged for a high-level Hunyuan bloodline, the Sky-Eye Thunder Beast, but I've gotten very little from trying to excavate its potential." "What methods did you use to excavate it?" GK God Emperor asked. As the cultivator who had delved deepest into bloodline excavation in the dark sacred world, he was naturally qualified to guide Lei Ting. Lei Ting began to explain, "I tried to induce it with various thunder powers." Outside, in the front garden of the cave mansion, more than 100,000 cultivators finally saw the God Emperor appear. He's out. Luo Feng God Emperor has appeared. They watched as a black-haired, black-clothed man walked out first, followed by Dragon Dao Lord, GK God Emperor, Bo Shu, Bai Yin, Qi, Yan Feng, and Lei Ting. When Luo Feng stepped forward, an incomparably terrifying aura radiated from him. Heaven and earth seemed to tremble, rules twisted. The surrounding space dimmed and darkened. Every cultivator felt as if they could be torn apart in an instant. Luo Feng released his aura and then immediately withdrew it. The crowd fell silent, not daring to make the slightest sound. "I am Luo Feng," he said with a mild smile. "My cultivation time isn't long enough to claim I can answer every problem. Today I'll share some of my experiences in the hope of giving you inspiration." "Thank you, Luo Feng God Emperor," the cultivators replied, bowing respectfully. They understood, an invincible being had no obligation to teach them. That he was willing to speak was a great kindness. "Ask your questions," Luo Feng said. "May I ask, Luo Feng God Emperor, besides the known ultimate bloodline awakening, are there other ways to break out of the cage?" a cultivator asked. Luo Feng glanced at Dragon Nine Dao Lord. They had already agreed that bloodline matters would be answered by GK, secret techniques by Dragon 9, and enlightenment-type questions by Luo Feng himself. "There are three main ways to break out of the cage," Dragon Nine Dao Lord said. "First, ultimate bloodline awakening. Second, controlling the source world's origin and becoming the source world's master directly. Third, breaking the law with force, ascending from the primal chaos life-death Tao to become a Hunyuan Lord." "How many ways are there to control the source world origin?" another cultivator asked. Dragon 9 explained, "A source world's origin encompasses many great Taos. If you can leave your soul imprint on more than half of those great Taos, you can hope to control the source world. Most source worlds have at least 9 great Taos, so you'd need to cultivate at least 5 great Taos to the God King's second realm." The crowd understood the difficulty. Most cultivators specialized in one Tao. Cultivating 2 concurrently was rare. 3 Tao specializations rare indeed. Dragon 9 had been valued by Lord Xingmang because he could cultivate 3 Taos up to the primal chaos life-death Tao level. But even so, advancing to the God King's second realm in unfamiliar Taos remained staggeringly difficult. "There's another method," Dragon 9 continued, "faith propagation. If you can propagate a faith throughout the source world so that every sentient being recognizes you as its master, the source world's origin consciousness may accept you as master. But faith propagation is even harder than mastering more than half the great Taos." "Are there other paths to become a source world's master?" someone asked. "If you are native to a source world, that world will not reject you even if you break out of the cage," Dragon 9 said with a smile. "If you become a world-level Hunyuan through your Hunyuan bloodline, you can gradually refine your home source world's origin over time. Or if you break the law with force and become a Hunyuan Lord outright, refining your home source world will be instantaneous." Everyone grasped the options. Either use methods like mastering more than half the great Taos, or the faith method to control a source world, or rely on sheer strength, becoming a world-level Hunyuan or a Hunyuan Lord to refine your home source world. "How does one break the law with force?" another cultivator asked. GK and Dragon 9 looked to Luo Feng. Senior Yuan and the others have said that comprehending a Hunyuan Dao means grasping the highest level of power. Then you can break the law with force and directly become an origin life, Luo Feng said. "We've long comprehended the primal chaos life-death Dao and feel it's already very complete. Adding anything feels like a burden. How can we comprehend a Hunyuan Dao?" someone asked. Of the 3 ways, bloodline awakening, becoming the source world's master, and breaking the law with force, the last is the most difficult, Luo Feng said. At the God Emperor stage, cultivation still feels like groping in the dark, but each step brings a visible increase in strength. That's because you're still fumbling inside the cage. The process is relatively smooth. But to jump from primal chaos life-death Dao to a Hunyuan Dao, that is to break out of the cage, to go beyond it. On the foundation of the primal chaos life-death Dao, you must continue to add ever deeper mysteries. The problem is, you often won't feel any increase in strength, and you won't even know whether your efforts are right or wrong. That's true cultivation in the dark, groping blindly for a complete Hunyuan Dao. Luo Feng looked around. In my view, if you can't even comprehend more than 70% of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline, don't even think about breaking the law with force. The cultivators were stunned. They had fantasized about breaking the law with force, but Luo Feng's warning made them realize how remote it seemed. If someone can comprehend 70% of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline, they could already become a high-level origin life directly through their bloodline, a cultivator pointed out. There's no luck about it. Luo Feng shook his head. 70% comprehension of a high-level Hunyuan bloodline is, at best, a preliminary requirement, barely the first step toward breaking the law with force. True breaking the law with force is much further away, and the real requirements are far higher. He had studied many low and high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, used the Wisdom Book and the Eye of Creation and Destruction, and studied treasures like the Star Tower's scarlet scales. From that, he had a rough idea of the level a Hunyuan Dao would occupy. It should be no weaker than the most profound Hunyuan ancestor bloodlines, perhaps comparable to the Star Tower's scarlet scales. Compared to that, his primal chaos life-death Dao was still a distant thing. I can only look up at it from afar for now, Luo Feng admitted. I can guess the level of a Hunyuan Dao, but I'm not close to it yet. My 70% estimate is already deliberately conservative to discourage unprepared hopes. If you don't even understand high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, trying to break the law with force is just wasting time. The discussion continued for 3 days. Luo Feng, GK, and Dragon 9 answered questions about ways to break out of the cage and other Dao confusions. Luo Feng focused on life and destruction paths. When he lacked expertise, he said so. Bo Shu, Bai Yin, Qi, and other peak-level existences also discussed their areas of specialty. After 3 days, the cultivators left satisfied, each having gained advice and insight. Luo Feng returned to the large Hunyuan hall and reflected, I learned a lot in those 3 days. One cultivator even personally witnessed the war between the Eternal Origin Life Camp and the Cultivator Camp. Some here came from the Beigu World Cluster, before it fell. Others lost their home source worlds to skyborn mixed source life and were forced to annihilate their home avatars, becoming cultivators without a home source world. As the war worsened, Senior Yuan and others had released more treasures into the exchange system. The large Hunyuan Hall, which had once held few treasures for trade, now offered many more. Luo Feng still had over 30 million merits unexchanged and wanted to see what had been prepared. Inside the hall, he paid casually for a full tour. It costs 1 billion Hunyuan crystals to view all the collections once, the system announced. A female puppet lifeform came to his side. She had short silver hair, golden eyes, and an affable smile. Cultivator Luo Feng, I will guide you through the collections of the large Hunyuan Hall. What would you like to see first? Take me to the Hunyuan prisoners, Luo Feng said, curious to see the living high-level origin lives on display. The large Hunyuan Hall has imprisoned over 30,000 high-level origin lives, the silver-haired guide said. These are trophies captured by our cultivator camp. I will show them to you one by one. Chapter 358, Blade. The silver-haired woman and Luo Feng walked deep into the large Hunyuan Hall. Space-time shifted wherever they passed. In the distance, Luo Feng saw a ferocious, fiery figure trapped in a spatial cage. Its body was wreathed in rising flames, every breath sigilled with Hunyuan power. It climbed restlessly and fixed a cold gaze on Luo Feng. Just being stared at by it made his heart quake. The gap is enormous, Luo Feng thought. The aura it gives off could turn me to ash. One sweep of its claw, even if there were tens of thousands of me, would annihilate them. He was certain now, with an energy reserve 1 billion times greater than before, his physical manifestation could reach a fraction, 1 or 2/10 of such a world-destroying demon god. But in terms of quality, the difference was staggering. No matter how many copies of himself existed, facing a true high-level origin life, he would be utterly outmatched. Leaping out of the cage, that's the true qualitative change, he realized. With the aid of 3 high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, he could now consider it. Still, he didn't rush to choose. He wanted to complete the path of creation and destruction first. Once guided by Senior Yuan and the others, he hoped to find the most suitable way to leap out of the cage. That is a high-level origin life, the silver-haired woman said. In the infinite mixed origin space, low-level Hunyuan life are countless and weak. High-level origin life are more valuable and can be useful in the camp wars. Luo Feng understood. Low-level Hunyuan life were useless in large-scale conflicts. World-level Hunyuan life are conquerors in their own right. Routine battles usually only involve world-level Hunyuan powerhouses, she continued. Luo Feng had already grasped the hierarchy: high-level origin life, world-level Hunyuan powerhouses, and Hunyuan lords. The gaps between those tiers were enormous. When the lords enter a war, the silver-haired woman's voice turned cold. The war has begun in earnest, and right now, we are in a period of war. Luo Feng listened closely. In the camp war, our losses are immense. Entire world clusters can be lost, and many source worlds become food for the skyborn mixed source life, she said without emotion. But the eternal origin life camp has suffered terrible losses too. The number of dead high-level origin life at the lowest tier runs into the hundreds of millions. We've slain many world-level Hunyuan life as well. The 7 world-level corpses stored here in the large Hunyuan hall were killed in a war tens of thousands of eras ago. Luo Feng was surprised. 7 world-level Hunyuan corpses killed only tens of thousands of eras ago? Even Hunyuan ancestors have been slain, the silver-haired woman added, looking at him. This war is different. The Eternal Origin Life Camp doesn't care about casualties and attacks at all costs. The Cultivator Camp can only meet them in battle. The situation is very bad? Luo Feng asked. Very bad. She fixed him with a steady look. Cultivator Luo Feng, you cultivate the fusion path. You will understand more when you are guided. You know I cultivate the fusion path? Luo Feng asked. Of course, she said. Every puppet life in the large Hunyuan hall is part of me. As the guardian of the dark sacred world, I see all that happens here. You have great potential, she continued. In the future, you will be an important force for our cultivator camp. But for now, you are still too weak. She led him onward. Each spatial cage they passed contained a high-level origin life, and each one radiated an oppressive terror. Yet those terrible beings were merely the lowest-tier soldiers on the camp battlefield. If leaping out of the cage only grants a high-level Hunyuan form, it truly holds little value for the entire cultivator camp, Luo Feng thought. He needed to grow stronger. They walked deeper. The number of caged high-level origin life grew. Facing hundreds of their gazes at once would test anyone's will. Luo Feng walked calmly. After all, they were prisoners and could not harm him. You've seen the prisoners. What else do you want to see? The silver-haired woman asked. Show me the corpses of origin life, Luo Feng said. She nodded. Space and time shifted, and in moments, a parade of high-level origin life corpses came into view. In war, there are so many high-level corpses that cultivators can exchange for them, the silver-haired woman explained. For 1 trillion Hunyuan crystals, you can obtain a high-level origin life corpse. Many cultivators will pool resources to claim a single corpse. Luo Feng knew the market logic. A high-level corpse for 1 trillion crystals seemed expensive, but dozens or even over 100 cultivators could share the cost. The materials recovered from studying a corpse could recoup most of that expense. He examined the colossal remains, endless like mountain ranges. Each retained a lingering resentment, unwillingness, despair, anger. That accumulated resentment pressed on him until he felt oppressed. After a long time, he finished viewing all the high-level corpses on display. Then he saw the 7 world-level Hunyuan corpses. They were unimaginably vast, each larger than the landmass of the origin continent's source world. Compared to them, the high-level origin life seemed nothing. The smallest of the 7 equaled 5/1,000ths of the origin continent's source world. The largest was 2/100ths. The large Hunyuan hall's hidden space was so enormous it could contain all 7 with ease. Facing those corpses, Luo Feng felt as if he stood before a source world. The oppression was suffocating. At that level, a single gaze could reduce him to ash, and yet in the camp war they had still died. Even tens of thousands of high-level origin life can be wiped out by a single world-level Hunyuan, the silver-haired woman said. The gaps between the major tiers are extreme. Luo Feng nodded. He had seen the truth of it. On the camp battlefield, even Hunyuan ancestors have fallen. Only our lords have never died in battle, she said with quiet confidence. The war between the two camps has dragged on for limitless years, and we are at an absolute disadvantage right now. But I believe the final victory will be ours, the cultivators, because the lords are immortal. Luo Feng remembered that Hunyuan ancestors had indeed fallen. The scarlet scale on his star tower had come from one such ancestor. He found it paradoxical. The lords are immortal, yet we're at such a disadvantage? The silver-haired woman paused, then sighed softly. You will know when you are guided, she said, offering no further explanation. The only thing the cultivator camp could pride itself on was the immortality of its lords. That hope kept cultivators willing to fight at any cost. After that, Luo Feng inspected various rare treasures and secret artifacts stored in the hall. If it was kept here, he examined it carefully. You've seen all the rare treasures and secret artifacts, the silver-haired woman said. Is there anything you wish to exchange for? Are there no secret artifacts here worth over 10 million battle merits? Luo Feng asked. He knew exchange prices ranged from 10,000 to 50 million battle merits. Yes, she answered. The large Hunyuan Hall permanently stores artifacts worth less than 10 million battle merits. Artifacts over 10 million aren't kept here. Any one of those could be worth as much as a world-level Hunyuan corpse. They are stored elsewhere for safety. Luo Feng understood. Artifacts over 10 million battle merits corresponded to the highest reward items in the infinite space, the Eye of Creation and Destruction, and similar relics. Some were even more precious. Those over 10 million are limited to one per cultivator and cannot be traded, she added. Luo Feng sighed inwardly. Reward points in the infinite space had no hard cap, but acquisition was tightly controlled. You should study them carefully, the silver-haired woman advised. Then she left. Luo Feng returned to his cave within the large Hunyuan Hall. He could make exchanges at any time, so he carefully studied the detailed information on every secret artifact worth over 20 million battle merits. As he delved deeper into his accumulation, a realization came. My path of creation and destruction has skewed, he thought. The Star Tower influenced me the most. When I was on the Origin continent, I studied that scarlet scale closely. It was a lamp in the dark guiding my direction, but on that scarlet scale, the patterns I observed were 34.2% life elements and only 9.2% destruction elements. Using it as my primary guide pushed my path toward life. He had pursued an ultimately massive life form and intended to channel that life's power into destruction, but that approach inherently leaned more heavily toward life. Even at the God King stage, it had tilted. Strictly speaking, my path of creation and destruction is about 7 parts life to 3 parts destruction. In the initial stage, the Star Tower skewed my direction. I can't turn back now. I must follow this path to its end. He knew there was no wrong path. Pure life could still reach the highest reaches. 7 parts life to 3 parts destruction could still attain half primordial origin and beyond. What he needed was a secret artifact that could verify and complement the Star Tower's scarlet scale, something of Hunyuan ancestor-level profundity that contained both creation and destruction, but leaned toward destruction. The scarlet scale was life-oriented. He required an opposite to balance and broaden his understanding. From the artifacts he studied, one called to him. Sky-rending blade. Naturally born in some mysterious place within the infinite mixed origin space, it contained the highest levels of destructive profundity, yet also harbored strands of vitality amid its terrifying annihilation. It suited cultivators of both the path of destruction and the path of life. Cost, 30 million battle merits. Contains the highest destructive profundity, but also harbors vitality, primarily destruction, supplemented by life. This is it. Luo Feng had always favored blades, but had never found a suitable secret blade before. This one fit perfectly. Cultivator Luo Feng, are you sure you wish to exchange for the sky-rending blade? A gentle voice asked. Yes, Luo Feng replied. Shall the sky-rending blade be teleported to the dark sacred world or to your home source world? The voice asked. Although the blade was not refined from skyborn materials, its value was immense and could attract danger outside your source world. Teleport it to my home source world, Luo Feng said. Chapter 359. Another Direction. Origin Continent Source World, Huyang City, City Lord's Mansion, inside the Star Tower. Luo Feng had been here for a long time, using the Wisdom Book and the Eye of Creation and Destruction to study high-level Hunyuan bloodlines. He had thoroughly studied the low-level Hunyuan bloodlines long ago and had already gone through more than 70% of the high-level ones. Only a few remained to be studied. Huh? An invisible fluctuation descended, and a weapon appeared out of thin air before him. The treasures exchanged with reward points in the infinite space often arrived like this. Luo Feng held his breath when he saw it. The blade was entirely black, its power contained within its body, but simply looking at it gave him the same awe he felt when seeing a Star Tower blood scale, supreme, unparalleled. It even reminded him of the Source World's origin. Could he use it? He reached out cautiously and gripped the hilt. The blade offered no resistance. He could hold it. What a terrifying weapon. Even as a life within a cage, Luo Feng understood that a single swing from this blade would likely annihilate high-level origin lives instantly. It contained an apex level of destructive power, the sort of weapon a world-level Hunyuan powerhouse would covet. Senior Yuan and the others had only made such treasures available now because world-level Hunyuan lives in the cultivator camp were few, and the spoils from the faction battles were vast. As long as someone had enough talent, they could exchange for them. Though, if they died, the treasures would be reclaimed. Unlike the Star Tower blood scale, which was ultimately a scale and couldn't exert too much power, this blade had been naturally conceived in the infinite mixed origin space and inherently possessed terrifying destructive force. Holding it felt like a mouse touching the button of a nuclear device. A casual swing could shatter worlds. At the very least, the source world might be plunged into immediate ruin. I'm too weak, Luo Feng thought. Before he left the cage, the blade was only useful as an object of comprehension. That was his purpose in exchanging for it. To study it, to use it as material for cultivation, to cross-check with the Star Tower blood scale. He opened the Eye of Creation and Destruction on his brow. He didn't rush to the Wisdom Book. First, he probed the interior of the sky-rending blade. Inside, an endless network of secret patterns unfurled. What is this? Luo Feng watched the vast lattice of patterns and, with his grasp of creation and destruction, quickly recognized they fell into two broad categories. Destruction, about 89%, and life, about 11%. Only two types? He was slightly stunned. He had seen many Hunyuan bloodlines and the complex secret patterns of the Star Tower blood scale and the eye itself, all containing many kinds of patterns. This weapon's patterns were purer. This is exactly what I wanted. Destruction as the core, life as the support. As he observed, he refined the blade with his own power. Senior Yuan and the others had prepared it well. The blade was easy to refine. In half a day, it was done. The moment refinement completed, destructive aura rose from the blade and from Luo Feng himself. Man and weapon felt as one. Of course I feel like part of the blade, he murmured. My realm is too low to perfectly control it. I'm being influenced by it. Then, faint and distant, Luo Feng sensed an existence incomparably far from the origin continent, far beyond the dark sacred world. In the telepathic echo of his multiple avatars, there was a single feeling. That place was extremely remote. In that blur, he sensed endless destructive energy, and amid it, one weapon after another, all different in appearance, each exuding power not inferior to the sky-rending blade. Numerous weapons were hidden there. Compared to that place, the sky-rending blade's destructive aura was only a sliver. The sky-rending blade must have been conceived there, Luo Feng realized. Holding the blade, he felt it belonged to that distant homeland. If he ever escaped the cage and his strength was sufficient, he wanted to find a way to go there. He pushed that thought aside and continued to study the sky-rending blade with the Wisdom Book. As the blade's temporary owner, it offered no resistance, and the Wisdom Book revealed many secrets. Luo Feng watched countless layers of space in the book displaying the blade's secret diagrams. They kept cycling and changing. So this is another path for fusing creation and destruction. Previously, the most dazzling diagram he had seen was the Star Tower blood scales pattern. Life as the core, destruction as the auxiliary. When life was strong enough, every movement held inexhaustible power and could easily produce devastating destruction. His own path of creation and destruction had followed that road. But here, with destruction as the core and life as the auxiliary, the result also reached the highest heights. Using sparks of vitality as catalysts could ignite billions upon billions of destructive energies. Those trillions of destructive energies would chain react, triggering ever more annihilation, total eradication. It was insane. Such destruction might even consume the user, Luo Feng thought. This was a path carried by a weapon. An origin life itself would probably find it hard to contain such extremity. Any origin life must first preserve life, so Hunyuan bloodlines always contained life-type secret patterns. Even an origin life focused on destruction would include other patterns, not so extreme as a weapon's. My original path was correct, he reflected. The path of creation and destruction should be rooted in life, but I can draw profound insights from this destructive path and integrate them to perfect mine. A new world unfolded before him, and he immersed himself in it. Dark sacred world, inside a large Hunyuan hall. He exchanged for the sky-rending blade. He had a chance at one of the limited secret treasures. 2 high-level origin lives had been watching Luo Feng. We receive strong cultivation during the cultivator stage, but once we become high-level origin lives, resources drop off fast, the woman in a fiery red robe said, shaking her head. For instance, I couldn't even qualify to exchange for that sky-rending blade. All the opportunities that should have been given to you have already been given, the silver-haired, silver-browed man replied. You became a high-level origin life by ultimate awakening of your bloodline. How could the lords continue to cultivate you intensely? The woman nodded. High-level origin lives were pawns in the faction war, and they were categorized. If someone reached this state through breakthrough and direct comprehension of their bloodline, they might still receive enough cultivation, but hope of becoming a world-level Hunyuan was slim. Luo Feng's potential is far greater than ours, the silver-haired man, Ji, observed. As a fusion path cultivator, his strength has surpassed even some fusion cultivators I know. The Lord said he's extreme, Yifei added. He doesn't pursue balance between creation and destruction. He pushes life to its vastest limits, which makes his fusion more difficult. But if he succeeds, his power will be exceptional. He came from the dark sacred world, Guy said with a faint smile. We two are the town defenders here. If we don't help him now, once he leaves the cage, we won't even have the qualification to assist him. Yifei's heart stirred. A talented fusion path cultivator had a high chance of becoming a world-level Hunyuan life. If he rose, and they were promoted into his command, their lives would be much better. How do we help? She asked. He's close to a breakthrough, but still lacking something, Gay said. We'll pick a suitable opponent for him. Among the more than 30,000 imprisoned high-level origin lives, we'll choose one. Helping him break through will earn us significant karma, Ji added. If it fails, we'll find other ways. They moved to the spatial temporal prison within the large Hunyuan hall. The imprisoned high-level origin lives noticed them arrive. We're selecting a Hunyuan prisoner to send into the dark sacred world wilderness. He'll gain temporary freedom, Gay announced, his gaze sweeping the prisoners coldly. Who wants such a favor? The prisoners were stunned. Exiled? As soon as they're exiled and their strength sealed, they'll be surrounded and killed by weaker cultivators, Gay continued. The prisoners understood. Release meant death. In the wilderness of the dark sacred world, an occasional Hunyuan prisoner might appear only because someone had intentionally released them and weakened them to make them easy prey. Pledge allegiance to the cultivator camp, and we'll refine your life core, a massive black mist offered. Pledge allegiance? Gay and Yifei sneered. Don't be ridiculous, Ji said. When the lords recruit on a large scale, tens of millions of skyborn mixed source lives surrendered, had their life cores refined, and became permanent members of the cultivator camp. You didn't surrender then. Now you expect us to refine your core? It's too late. Refining a life core is something only the lords can do during their recruitment, Ji said. Your strength is good, and your physique is among the largest of the 30,000 prisoners. He nodded toward a particular cell. Yifei stepped up to a spatial temporal prison and looked at a majestic, enormous fiery red stone life inside. You'll be the one exiled to the dark sacred world. I'm being exiled? The fiery red stone life asked, stunned. Your strength will be sealed even further. Gay used a talisman to increase the restraints on the prisoner. With a clang, the prisoner's power was rapidly suppressed, its body shrank, and its aura weakened. It dropped out of the high-level Hunyuan tier, shrinking until its displayed aura was only marginally stronger than GK God Emperor. The other prisoners watched with complicated expressions. They all understood that exile equaled death. "I will die," the fiery red stone prisoner said, staring at the two town defenders. "But in this war, your whole cultivator camp will be annihilated, and every territory you hold will be flattened by us. In the end, perhaps only a few lords will remain isolated, but all lands will be our hunting grounds." "Just you wait," Guy sneered. He stretched out his hand. The sealed, shrunken prisoner landed in his palm. The two town defenders left immediately, taking the Hunyuan prisoner with them. The remaining more than 30,000 prisoners watched as they departed, their thoughts tangled. They all knew what imprisonment meant, being at the mercy of others. Chapter 360, The Hunyuan Prisoner and Luo Feng. In a desolate stretch of the dark sacred world, space rippled and a fiery, red rock giant appeared on the earth. He looked around with ferocious eyes. Exiled, surrounded and reduced to scraps by ants inside the cage, endless rage and humiliation boiled inside him. He was a high-level origin life, and yet he had been captured and made a prisoner. He wanted to end it all, but even suicide had been denied to him. He had been turned into a trophy for the cultivator camp, a resource to be studied. His body, his bloodline mysteries, material for refining artifacts and auxiliary treasures. Every part of him would be used with ruthless efficiency. "Cultivators," he snarled. The red of his rocky skin flared, the stone beginning to melt into glowing lava. His aura surged, but the seals held fast. Illusory chains threaded through his body, one end anchored in his flesh, the other tethered to the void, bound by the suppressive power of the world itself. Wrath filled him. "I will flatten your territories. Except for a few lords, you will all become our food," he shouted, but there was nowhere for his hatred to go. Each step he took was met with relentless suppression. Far away, a team of cultivators hunting the wild saw him. "Look, over there." 7 cultivators inside a flying ship, all at the half-Hunyuan Enlightenment realm, probed with secret techniques and revealed the endless, scorching power. Lava flowed over the giant's body, flames leapt, and his ferocious aura was outright terrifying. A Hunyuan prisoner, they called. Even suppressed, the aura marked him as a high-level origin life. "We actually found one. They say a Hunyuan prisoner's strength is sealed and his mobility reduced. Perfect for trapping," someone said. They formed an array and attacked from range. Void-type restraints to strangle, world power strikes to exhaust. The prisoner barely stirred, letting the blows tickle him. "Lowly ants," he muttered. Even sealed, he thought, how laughable to be set against Luo Feng's enemies. He rose, chains flickering. Unable to fly because of the seals, he could still sprint in enormous strides. The ground tremored beneath him as he charged the cultivators. "Run!" the team shouted and fled. They were experienced enough to know some Hunyuan prisoners were weak enough to hurt if enough peak existences joined forces. This one was not. They vowed to call stronger help. Report to Luo Feng God Emperor, they decided, and sped away. Within a day, tens of thousands of half-Hunyuan cultivators had gathered, including more than 100 peak existences, with GK God Emperor and Dragon 9 Dao Lord among them. They formed a grand formation. Dragon 9 Dao Lord, unrivaled in array techniques, took charge. His spiritual will, exceeding the cage, controlled the grand formation and united the cultivators' power. The formation's strike was overwhelming, a blade of world force that slashed at the prisoner's throat. Only a shallow mark appeared, quickly healed as lava flowed over the wound. Lightning condensed from the formation and lashed repeatedly, rattling every observer, but the prisoner was massive, his body resilient and regenerating. He was the largest Hunyuan prisoner. Gay and Yifeya had chosen. How is this possible? GK and Dragon 9 exchanged stunned looks. Their 10,000-strong formation could barely wound him. The crowd murmured, the dark sacred world had never seen such a strong Hunyuan prisoner. "It must have been released for Luo Feng," Dragon 9 transmitted. "Brother GK, your formation and will should match Luo Feng's strength. Why hasn't he come?" "Boshu says Luo Feng is in seclusion," GK replied. "He's cut off communications." "In seclusion?" Dragon 9 frowned. Then this Hunyuan prisoner will run wild for a while. Still, they held their grand formation at a distance and watched. The prisoner laughed scornfully. Weak cultivators, my strength is sealed to this degree and you can't even harm me. Pathetic. Their frustration was real but futile. Even united, they could make no headway. Above, in the large Hunyuan hall, Gay and Yifei watched the scene with quiet interest. Luo Feng is in seclusion, Gay said, frowning. We chose this opponent for him, but he's secluded. He just exchanged for the sky-rending blade. He'll study it thoroughly. With his temperament, his seclusion shouldn't last, Yifei said. They were patient. High-level origin life knew how long true cultivation could take. They had expected Luo Feng to emerge soon enough. Luo Feng had emptied himself into the mysteries of the sky-rending blade during seclusion. His path of creation and destruction, at the half Hunyuan level, was nearly complete. What he lacked was a flood of higher mysteries to feed the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao. The Star Tower Bloodscale and the sky-rending blade were vital fragments of that sustenance, but to fully elevate his Tao, he would need more. Breaking laws by brute force was not his way. He preferred to seek spiritual inspiration and integrate it. When he finally emerged, he scanned incoming communications. An unprecedented Hunyuan prisoner in the dark sacred world that even a 10,000-strong formation cannot hurt. Interesting. Under the cage, it had been hard for him to find a worthy opponent. He decided to go look. Luo Feng strode across the world. With each step, he spanned vast distances. After a few hundred paces, he saw the gargantuan figure of the lava prisoner. Indeed, a high-level origin life, he assessed. The prisoner had been out for over 100 epochs. Once, more than 100,000 cultivators had gathered, but Dragon 9's formation could only command at most 10,000 without exceeding his capacity. Without a unified formation, the crowd's power was dissipated. The prisoner's massive body and rapid healing made him nearly invulnerable. So formidable, Luo Feng thought, his hunter's instinct sharpening. Word spread through the high sky. Luo Feng is here. Far above, Gay and Yifei had prepared. They had released the prisoner, hoping to challenge Luo Feng. Luo Feng's strength is immense. Few fusion Dao cultivators are so powerful. Under the cage, he lacks opponents. Only by suppressing a high-level origin life can he face true pressure, Gay observed. Perhaps this battle will perfect his path of creation and destruction. Luo Feng made no grand entrance. He extended a hand, his arm swelled with power, and his palm tore open a rift in the world, a passage filled with terrifying might. His palm shot through that rift and appeared before the lava prisoner. The prisoner, sitting regally, sensed the incoming strike and raised an arm to block. Luo Feng's palm, carrying the energy of his vast body, amplified by the treasure undying heart, struck with earth-shattering force. It slammed into the prisoner's blocking arm and chest, driving his chest inward with a thunderous roar. The seated giant was hurled backwards, carving a colossal canyon into the earth hundreds of millions of kilometers long. He landed dazed at the canyon's end, a sunken wound in his chest leaking magma-like blood. He stared in stunned silence. Luo Feng felt exhilarated. He had never been able to unleash such power freely in the dark sacred world before. Previous battles, against Secret Ruin God Emperor and others, had involved causing space-time to collapse and teleporting enemies into submission without full-bodied strikes. Now, confronting the prisoner, he had let loose and savored the blow. Gay and Yifei watched the result from above. He's enjoying it, Gay said. Quickly loosen some of the seals, increase his strength another fold, Yifei urged.